Packed agenda today, so we're going to get started. Before we begin, though, I'd like to introduce a new member of the team of the beautiful 2nd District in Baltimore County. Our new team member started just yesterday. Her name is Kylie Taylor. Kylie, please stand up. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kylie because she got a good hand before I told you about her background, and when you hear about her, she's going to get a bigger hand. So Kylie is local, played college lacrosse, went to Trinity College, majored in law and public policy. She also worked for Senator Blumenthal, is that correct, in Connecticut, and then also most recently worked as an intern for Angela Brooks this summer. So Kylie is going to be an outstanding member of the 2nd District team, along with her teammates, Zena Moore, Carlos Gonzalez, and Justin Silberman. We call them the Fab Four in District 2. So welcome, Kylie. You can give her another hand. Yeah. Okay, the first item on the agenda is going to be Resolution 40-24, which is that right, Mr. Boswick? Okay, which is Megan Benjamin, Department of Planning. We're going to talk a little bit about the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of council. Again, my name is Megan Benjamin. I'm the Land Preservation Administrator with the Baltimore County Department of Planning. We have two resolutions before you this evening. The first is Resolution 40-24. For this resolution, the administration is requesting approval of the recommendation of 11 applications and ranking of the same on approximately 604 acres by landowners to sell easements to the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation in their FY 24-26 cycle. The department received and reviewed 11 applications. The Baltimore County Agricultural Land Preservation Advisory Board reviewed each farm and analyzed and ranked on factors such as contribution to the agricultural economy, quality of the land, and analyzed and ranked, soils, number of development rights, acres of contiguous protected ground, and environmental benefit, and other factors. The advisory board voted on June 12th, 2024 to recommend the 11 applications. In accordance with the Annotated Code of Maryland, the ranking is to remain confidential until the completion of the easement of the acquisition cycle. Therefore, the resolution lists the farm in alphabetical order.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Benjamin. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Ms. Benjamin on this item? Okay, Ms. Benjamin, I'm going to ask you to proceed to the next item.
Okay, the second resolution is Resolution 41-24. For this resolution, the administration is requesting council's approval of the county's contribution towards the purchase of 8 agricultural easements through the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation FY24 cycle. Council is requested to approve $1,007,636.65 in matching funds for the purchase of these 8 agricultural easements on approximately 503 acres. The total cost of the easements is $4,266,650.63, with state funds making up the difference.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Benjamin. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Ms. Benjamin? Okay, thank you, Ms. Benjamin.
Thank you.
Our next item will be Council Bill 6924, and this is a bill that I am sponsoring, and this is kind of a follow-up bill to the CZM, the 2024 CZMP. We had, I guess it was the most contentious issue in the 2nd District in the CZMP. It was on Church Lane, and it related to some rezoning of office space to a commercial zone, BL. We talked about community commercial zones, and what we did is the community sorted it out. We had a meeting, the community made the decision on what the zoning would be. It's old style zoning and planning. And so it's one of these situations where we walked away and everyone was pleased at the result. So I know my colleagues can appreciate that that doesn't happen all the time, but it's nice when it does happen. So that's our bill. I think we have one speaker for this bill. Ms. Belcastro, would you call that speaker up?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The speaker is Susan Williams, who is here in person.
Welcome, Ms. Williams. Oh, could you turn your microphone on, Ms. Williams?
Thank you. My name is Susan Williams. I'm co-president of the Pine Ridge Association. We also work with members of Sudbrook, Pine Ridge, Pikesville Township, Bedford Townhouses, the St. Charles Church that's in this area, and the businessmen. And I think there's a few things that are important here, and I did submit a letter to the file. The first is we want to really thank our councilman for encouraging us to work together. That was, I think, very helpful. We'd also like to thank the businessmen on Church Lane who are really willing to listen to us and work with us. And yes, the community did kind of write the zoning code, but I happen to have a master's in planning and 45 years experience, so we had a little edge. And I think this was really an example, and I think it's going to come up repeatedly in the county, where the transition zones, which I think are OR1, RO, and then there's a commercial one, were designed a very long time ago, like when I was in high school. And since that time, something called the computer has been invented. So you're not really going to have viability for these business people in the RO and OR1 zones because they're so limited. And there are uses that are palatable that don't tend to cause a lot of loitering. They don't have a lot of truck deliveries. They don't have refuse that smells, things that aren't disruptive to communities. So I think this not only was a good resolution for this particular area, I think it would be beneficial for the county to study these transition zones to make them more viable for business people while still protecting the sanctity of the communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, thoughts to share with Ms. Williams? Ms. Williams, I'll just say this, you and I have known each other a long time. We've worked professionally side by side. And,
Since 1980.
Yes, it's been a while. And I will say that in the webinars I go to maintain continuing education on my AICP, as I hear from planners across the country that every jurisdiction needs a complete overhaul of their zoning code. Yes. Because the very foundation, the pillars of zoning codes in most jurisdictions are based on retail behaving a certain way, office space behaving a certain way, and even nowadays residential behaving another way. And so it's changed. I think we all know that we shop differently than we did in the 60s and 70s and 80s when most zoning codes were formed. Office space has changed post-pandemic. So we know what the issue is, that most zoning codes need a comprehensive overhaul. I think the challenge is that it takes a lot of political fortitude and will to engage in that process, and it's not always easy. And as we've seen over the last year, that trying to do something comprehensive and as complex in nature takes a great deal of energy and political will. So thank you.
And I also think there is a way to do it without it becoming overly burdensome, expensive. And that's, the same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And for example, this is a finite enough issue that you could study these transition areas and have a panel of people that are both business people and community people and come up with something.
And this is a great outcome on this particular issue.
Thank you very
Ms.
much
Williams.
again.
Okay. Our next item is Bill 7024. We have quite a few speakers on this. We have elected officials that are going to stay. Please thank the elected officials for taking the time to come to the council meeting this evening. We welcome your attendance. Let me start with, I know that Delegate Nick Allen has another engagement for this evening, so we're going to have Delegate Nick Allen speak first.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, for the record, my name is Nick Allen. I'm a delegate that represents District 8 in Baltimore County. My district overlaps with Councilmanic Districts 5 and 6. I'm here to testify today in support of Bill 7024. I would like to state for the record that I'm absolutely in favor of the expansion of the council. The council's recent vote to do so, I think, is historic and necessary. And I think the county has changed significantly and grown substantially in the last few decades, and it's a very necessary step. I support Bill 7024 because I believe it will ensure that that future larger council can best serve our constituents, our neighbors, and the entire county. Further, I believe it will correct what I think are deficiencies in Bill 4724, which expanded the council in the first place. First, I am concerned in my capacity as a delegate about the provisions of Bill 4724 regarding the composition of the Baltimore County Board of Education. The Maryland Attorney General has confirmed that the County Council does not possess the statutory authority to order the General Assembly to make this change, and Bill 7024 fixes this simply by repealing that portion. Additionally, when the ballot question is put to voters this year, we will be asking Baltimore County citizens to vote not only on the expansion of the council, but also on several other questions contained within the bill. This includes, like I said, the makeup of the Board of Education, the changing of the role of council member to a full-time position, the proposed new councilmanic districts map, and I'm sorry, that was it. I am supportive of Bill 7024 because it cleans up what may be a complex, confusing, and even contradictory ballot question for the voters and focuses solely on what I think we all believe is the most important aspect, which is the expansion of the council. I'm also concerned about the process behind the development of the new maps. I believe the county charter makes it very clear how maps should be drawn, and I'm unaware of any redistricting commission that was formed or any level of community input that was put into the new map. The charter is very prescriptive regarding how redistricting following the decennial census should be done, and I believe the same process should be adhered to for this redistricting. But perhaps most importantly, the communities I serve and the communities we all serve honestly seem to be alarmed by the perceived lack of community input. I've been in a number of meetings in which my neighbors and constituents have expressed their unease about the situation and the deficit of participation from our communities. There's also anxiety regarding the short time frame that now exists in which the council would even be able to listen to those concerns before the ballot question is finalized. Mail-in ballots go out, I think 3 weeks from today. Then Section 207, the county charter calls for at least 3 public hearings by a redistricting commission, so time is running out. Bill 7024 corrects this by repealing the map. So all of this, the multifaceted nature of the ballot question, the built-in maps, the lack of public input, and the short time frame has created, honestly, a negative perception among many people in the county, and it makes it seem as though this was all done very hastily or behind closed doors. I don't believe that to be the case, but I do think that has become a perception. Bill 7024 is a chance to change that perception, change that narrative, and make it clear to the people of the county that we want this process to be an open and democratic one. I think it's obvious that a map developed in accordance with the county charter, one that was drawn by an appointed commission and includes public input, would be inherently more democratic and less partisan than a map that would be drawn by the council itself. In closing, I want to thank you all for your time. It's always a pleasure to work alongside each of you, and thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Allen. Could I ask you to just stay there for 1 second? In my haste to get you on your way, I neglected to offer Councilman Young an opportunity to speak on behalf of the bill, and I wanted to come back to Councilman Young.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And delegates, since you're here, appreciate your comments related to the bill. So Council Bill 724 repeals Section 3, 4, 5, 8, and 9 of uncodified language in Bill 4724, or the County Council Expansion Referendum. These sections specifically pertain to the 9-member map that was drawn by the council and the Baltimore County School Board provisions that were also present in the referendum. Baltimore County Charter clearly establishes the process for redistricting councilmanic districts every 10 years following the national census. What it doesn't provide is for a process to redistrict at any time in between the 10-year census. I can only speculate as to the reason for this. Perhaps close to 70 years ago, the folks that drafted the charter didn't think that it was necessary, or perhaps they believed that the language used in the charter was sufficient and clear related to when and how redistricting was to take place. Perhaps it was the fact that they were not creative enough to envision a scenario where members of the council would interpret for ourselves that the lack of guidance present in the charter would serve as a permissive ability to draw the map for ourselves. I don't know what it meant to them, but I know what it means to me. A unaccountable process that I believe was used to draw a map that lacked public input, that lacked the ability for members of this council to engage in a conversation about what redistricting looks like and should look like. I think from the beginning, speaking for myself, I believed that there was going to be a redistricting commission in general, even if the referendum were to pass, because that's what was stated in the charter. But that's not what we ended up passing or moving forward with, or what ended up getting through this chamber. I believe that what was set in place was done for a reason 70 years ago, because it shouldn't be left to us in these positions to be drawing maps and determining what could potentially be decades of impact on this county and the residents that live within it. The focus on this piece of legislation is recognizing the fact that we owe it to our constituents and to the folks that live in Baltimore County to have every opportunity to participate in a process that's already been set forth on multiple occasions in multiple decades to determine for themselves and have input in the districts that they live in, and ultimately determining the representatives that they will have on this council. With that is the purpose of this bill. Beyond that, I'm sure we'll have folks speaking tonight that's talking about preventing lawsuits, which is also applicable, providing more opportunity for our council members to engage in another process that hopefully we will engage with if the referendum were to pass, but also recognizing the fact that we have little ability to dictate to the legislature and the state level folks what they can and can't do or what they will do related to our school board. With that, I'm happy to open and answer any questions or comment from the other members of the council.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Young, and again, my apologies for.
No worries, it's all good.
Any of the members have any comments, questions? Councilman Marks?
Thank you. Thank you for appearing, Delegate Allen. I would like to ask Mr. Boswick and Mr. Benjamin a question, because I was the sponsor of the amendment, which passed, I believe, unanimously. I'd like to ask Mr. Boswick and Mr. Benjamin this question because I was the sponsor of the amendment, which passed unanimously. Does the bill order the Maryland General Assembly to do anything?
No, it does not.
Can we order the Maryland General Assembly to do anything?
No.
No. The language says, be it further enacted that the 30th day following the general election, the county executive and the county council shall send written notification to the Baltimore County delegation. It's not ordering them to do anything.
Okay, any additional? Councilman Katch?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I am surrounded by the three sponsors of this bill, but I am here to speak against this particular bill. Let me start out by saying, Councilman Marks, I was in the Maryland legislature for 40 years, so I know that we cannot order the state to do anything in regard to the school system. That is simply state law. We cannot order it. And this bill does not order the state legislature to do anything in regard to the school board, et cetera. Secondly, I was not happy with the fact that the maps in this bill 4724, that they did not actually receive, the process, in my estimation, was not open and transparent. It was not. So I introduced an amendment to the bill that allows for the map that's in this bill to be changed all the way through October 1st of 2025. And I introduced that amendment because it is my intention, was my intention, to ask this council to appoint a commission and for this commission to have public hearings in the county. So, as far as I'm concerned, this bill is totally unnecessary, completely unnecessary, because the mechanism to have a commission, to have public input is already in the law. And, again, I was not happy with the lack of openness and transparency. And I think the amendment that I introduced that this council passed takes care of that problem. And I can assure you, I would not have voted for the bill to put this ballot measure on the ballot unless my amendment was adopted, which it was. So if the voters should if this bill should fail, 70-24, if it should fail, you realize that we can still appoint a commission. We can still have public hearings. And as long as I'm here in the council, I can assure you that I'm going to push very hard for a commission to be appointed. And talking to other council members, I don't think this is going to be a problem. I think it will happen. And it will be open, transparent, and I am very sorry that this bill was ever put in, because as I said, it's not necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Young.
If I could, thank Councilman Ketch during the debate on the referendum, when we were offering amendments, joined me in a amendment that would have clarified and also made it clear that a commission process was going to be how we were going to follow creating a map, or how a map was going to be created. I appreciate your co-sponsorship of the amendment. I wish it would have passed. I also appreciate your commitment to that by offering another amendment that set a date to allow for the map to be reconsidered or to be drawn up. I guess the only point to that isn't not acknowledging that there is another opportunity to address the map, but that the fact that we have a map in the first place is where this bill comes from. There shouldn't be a map to be reconsidered until October. There should be a commission that stood up as referenced in the charter and is applicable in every other redistricting process that the county's ever seen to address what the map will be. What's lacking from your amendment, and this isn't a criticism because of the fact that we have it, is that while it allows us to look at it, it doesn't dictate or also doesn't specifically state how we'll do that. So as much as you're saying, and I appreciate that because I would follow you with your push to form a commission after the referendum if it were to pass in November. But if that doesn't have the votes, there's nothing stopping this body from just using the map that's currently in place to just tweak it. So in terms of where I come from and where the purpose of this bill comes from is by eliminating the map, we start from scratch where we should have been starting from the first place and leaving the concept of expanding the council because of how we've grown, how the Baltimore County has evolved over time, and then I'll leave it to the charter to dictate how those new districts would be drawn. Not tie the map to uncodified language to the bill itself, to the referendum itself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and
You,
Mr. Chairman, I certainly understand the points you're making. I have confidence that this council will act properly should this bill 7024 be defeated. And I believe that we will appoint a commission, that I do believe that we will have public hearings. I know that the majority of this council would support such a move. Now, I am going to say something that I don't usually do this kind of thing, but, and Delegate, it's not at you because you work in the legislature. at when the current legislative lines were adopted.
Correct.
I did get a little upset, when I saw the list of delegates and senators complaining about the map that we passed in the council. And then I looked at the legislative map, which I voted on many of them as a member of the that is a gerrymandered mess. It's a gerrymandered mess, and I could never have supported it. And I do not understand how people who supported this gerrymandered map could turn around and criticize the map that this council passed. It really bothers me. And as I said, I don't usually talk like this, but the map, if you look at that map, the way it splits up communities, I mean, it is disgusting. There's no other way to describe it. It's disgusting. And, I just think on the part of some people to sign the letter that I got complaining about the council map, when these very same people voted for the legislative map, it just, I'm finished.
Councilman Jones?
I was a little confused, Councilman Katz, which map you were talking about. But I think you're talking about the General Assembly map?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this one.
No, I saw about the General Assembly House and Senate districts, which you got to admit is a gerrymandered mess. I guess you don't have to admit it.
No, I would say the same about the map that was presented. And I think there's a couple of good points. First of all, I am very happy and proud to be a co-sponsor of the bill in front of us. And I think it is the correct thing to do because, first of all, the county code is clear on what the process is. Number one, the citizens must decide to expand the council or reduce the council. And then a redistricting commission must be created with non-elected officials. And then the legislature, us, will look at that map and we have the opportunity to tweak it, change it, or whatever, and it takes 5 votes to do so. So a very important point that I see, and I would love for anybody else who wants to weigh in, this map was created without public input, without the process that's spelled out in the county code. In my mind, in my reading of the code, in my consultation with some attorneys I've been dealing with, that makes that illegal. I believe it will generate a lawsuit if it were to survive this legislation, because right now the map is not ripened because it hasn't been introduced. I mean, it hasn't been presented, but it will become law in 30 days after this bill, the initial council expansion bill passes. If the citizens vote for it, that map becomes law, and then to me that will be illegal. But here's a very important point that I want everybody to understand. Let's not confuse meaningful participation with this process. In other words, let's take a look at 2 different scenarios. Scenario that's in front of us, notwithstanding this bill. If this bill, this map that was created, which is also heavily gerrymandered, if this map that was created becomes law 30 days after, and let's say people file the lawsuits and the lawsuits are not successful, we can have all the hearings we want. We can convene a redistricting commission. We can do all of those things. But at the end of the day, if you don't come up with 5 votes to change it, then that map will stand. If you don't come up with 5 votes to change it, the map that's been made in the dark room without participation will stand. Now let's look at the other scenario. The council or the citizens decide, this is the way I think it should be. The citizens vote for expansion. Now there's a redistricting commission. Redistricting commission without elected officials on it per the county code, they make a map. Now it's up to the county council to make a legislative decision to change it, alter it, or come up with something new. But again, it takes 5 votes to do it. So there has to be some consensus amongst the Democrats and the Republicans to come up with a consensus on that new map. And we would be tied by the county code to say we must do it. And who knows what that map would be. But the scenario we have now, if there's no consensus to change, in other words, if you like what you see, you just stonewall and never agree to change anything. And it's my opinion that that map, having been installed automatically 30 days after the bill passes, would be the map. Now, as it relates to the school board letter, I was here in Baltimore County, and I remember when the school board was appointed by the governor, and there was tremendous debate and discussion around the county as to how do we want our school board to function and who do we want to be on it. And it was on the ballot, and the people chose that we would have a hybrid school board, that we would have so many elected, one from each district, we would have so many appointed by the governor. All of that, it's up to the General Assembly to make that decision. But the point is, that letter, when that letter comes from Baltimore County Council, that letter is coming from the citizens of Baltimore County because we are their duly elected representatives. So when we send a letter, we're speaking on behalf of all the citizens of Baltimore County. And my point is, someone made that decision. It's a decision that there shouldn't even be a letter sent because the citizens of Baltimore County did not have an opportunity to weigh in. And I can say the same thing for full-time, part-time council member. We've had that debate amongst ourselves for years, whether it be full-time, should it be part-time, you know, what's the pros and cons, whether it makes sense, yes, no. But again, this bill made that decision. Someone decided we'll just put that in the bill and I'll just do it. So clearly the original bill, which contained these items, in my opinion, was not good and should not have been there in the first place. Thank you.
Councilman Ortell's been waiting.
Turn my mic off. So one of the things that we struggled with when the county in some form has been talking about expanding the council in some way for 40 years. And we did that in July. We had to have some kind of map that people on the council and different community groups could look at to see what conceivably this map would look like. With Councilman Katch's amendment, we have the ability to amend that map, to make changes to that map. And basically, this bill says, well, it would be better to wipe it clean than to just run the process that you're already going to run, where we may make changes to this bill or to the map. And I find it curious that 2 of the co-sponsors of this bill, who didn't think that we were going to pass, that 9 council districts was going to go to the voters to decide, have now decided that, well, we need to rewrite history in coming up with a new bill. And I think they did that because they did not believe that 9 was going to pass. Well, it did, and we have a process that is going to play out, and I just feel like this is an unnecessary bill that we're basically putting the cart before the horse. We already have the process in place. And Councilman Jones, you talked about the charter and processes. Well, we have a couple things where, again, this is unprecedented. There's nothing in the charter that addresses expanding the council. So there's nothing that talks about a process once you expand the council. We have to, it's new ground. It's just like in a couple months, we have to appoint a county executive. There's nothing in the charter about what the process should be for appointing a county executive. But that's why we're up here. That's why people put confidence in us to, make some of these decisions for them. And again, we are not saying that the map that was placed out there is written in stone. And it never was. And the school board situation is the same thing. There was never any intent that we were going to tell the legislature what to do about the school board. That is their decision to decide how they're going to go forward once we expand the council.
Thank you, Councilman Ortel. I'm going to just call a timeout for a second. I'm going to, Delegate Allen, thank you for your testimony. I'm not going to have you sit up here the whole time.
I got a front row seat. I appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilman Marks.
Keep going.
Thank you. You're right, Councilman Ortel. That was a great night. It was a bipartisan vote. Bipartisanship is good. I know some people don't like to hear that, but it is good. And we made history, right? And the Republicans went along with that. Councilman Jones brings up the lack of public input. Question again to elevated you almost, to Mr. Boswick. There were 2 work sessions essentially for this bill, right? There was an opportunity to testify at night before the council, right? So there was multiple opportunities for people to testify on the expansion bill, correct?
Yes, there were 2 work sessions. There was a legislative session when the bill was introduced, and there were 2 work sessions after that.
And then the bill lays out a process for further public input, and that was Councilman Catch's amendment. If this bill is adopted, there will be less opportunity for public input than on the bill that passed in July. I mean, if you don't like the fact that there's not enough public input, we're racing through this right now, right? We're just moving right through this. That's a comment. Question for Councilman Catch.
Yes.
And we all respect your tenure, both as a state legislator and as a council member. So you were a state legislator in the redistricting cycles for 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. Can you ever recall the state legislators, and you were one, coming before the county council from one party, by the way, to testify on council redistricting maps?
No,
No.
never.
I know it's happened in the last cycle, and it seems to be happening now from one party. Okay, the last thing I want to do, since Councilman Catch, you brought it up, Ms. Hewitt, can you show the federal congressional map that was proposed? Yeah, and I think it's noteworthy because this is the state legislative map that passed on 3 roll calls, right? And only one time did a Democratic delegate vote against this map. It was overturned.
That's the congressional map.
This is the congressional map. This is the congressional
I
map.
don't think any,
And then the courts threw this out. And then can you put up the state map? This is the state map. Same thing. Near unanimous support by one party for this map. This doesn't look like a non-gerrymandered map to me. That's it.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Young and then Councilman Catch.
Sure. Stated earlier that we needed to have a map so people had something to look at. And that's not accurate. We didn't need to have a map. We chose to have a map. We chose to create a map ourselves. And what I originally remember from the limited conversation that we had leading up to the referendum being introduced was that it was better to have an example than not. But then after that, the example wasn't just an example. It was tying the referendum to that map. And also put out that we've left out the piece that not only does it not state in the charter what to do or how the council could proceed on redistricting in between the 10-year census, and we chose collectively and taking from council that since it didn't state that we couldn't draw a map, we chose to draw a map. The referendum that they'll be voting on, because the folks that go to the ballot in November won't see a map, and they won't see the uncodified language we're talking about today, but they will see language that ensures that the charter's changed to make sure that no council after us can draw a map like this again. So we've taken advantage of a loophole that because we've chosen that it doesn't say that we can't, we're going to choose that it says that we can. And then we're going to change the charter to make sure that no one can do it after us. It doesn't seem like we're very, I would say, enthusiastically in support of that fact. I also want to point out something that I know Councilman Marks, as you were mentioning, this piece of legislation is getting as much public input as the referendum did, getting 2 public hearings. Also, folks can come and testify at the end of a legislative session if they'd like to. But what's different here is that everything that's been introduced tonight is what will be introduced unless there's amendments or be talked about the next work session and on the day that we vote on it up or down. The public did not have an opportunity to weigh in on the map that was passed. There was a map. There was a map that was introduced at the first work session. It clearly didn't have support. I would say just anecdotally, internally, didn't have a ton of support. I think I knew that it was being worked on, and maybe at some point was expected to be brought in on like, this is what we're going to introduce, but then that second map that passed wasn't made public until right before that work session. And to sit here and say that we expect that the public has an opportunity to comment and provide their input when they didn't have time to review what that map was, and I also didn't understand exactly what the implication was or what the huge changes were until that Friday after the work session. I point that out because I'm not, one is you're making a statement, I'm also making a statement back because I don't see it that way, and it goes back to the original purpose for this. We chose collectively to draw a map because legally it didn't say we couldn't. And to say that the public had an opportunity to participate in the process of what that map should look like and how it would be drawn is not accurate. That's it.
If I could I just offer a comment just on how we got here? So how did we get here? Bill 47, let me just summarize how we got here. Bill 4724 moved the council from 7 members to 9 members should the voters approve it in November. And in order to do that, we needed a supermajority. We needed 5 votes. If we did not work on some iteration of a map, Bill 4724 would not have passed. We would be 7 council members. Well, we've been 7 council members. Let me go back to 1956 when we had 250,000. We would 7 council members now. Now we have 850,000. Had 4724 not passed, we'd be parked right in front of 1956, emergency breakup, and Baltimore County, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be parked in front of 1956 with 7 members for representing 850,000. And I've heard lots, and I'm a co-sponsor of this bill, but I do want to, I think we're leaving out some of the details. I've heard one council member say, well, my district got cut. We had 120,000 people, and now there's 95,000. Well, if you do the math and you divide 850,000 up by 7, it's 120,000. If you divide it by 9, it's 95,000. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all 7 members and all 7 council districts lost 25,000 people. Let's not forget some of these details. Let's also not forget who participated in the legislative process and who did not participate in the legislative process. This is a really important issue. It's one of the most important issues that we have deliberated on, and we should have 7 members, all 7 members, and into the future, all 9 members participate in this process. And it's so important. We've come a long way. I hope that we proceed. I hope that the voters decide to approve this. But I will point out that we would never have gotten a supermajority of votes had we not have some iteration of what this thing would look like. Not that it's the final map, but it's an iteration that gave this governing body some level of comfort that we could move forward on moving Baltimore County out of 1956 here in 2024. And so I'll stop right there. My emotions have been
Chair.
So any of my colleagues have any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Jones, go right ahead.
No, first of all, I don't think we were ever stuck in 1956. That's the first thing. The second thing, as it relates to participation in the process, it was clear that you were doing what you could to make an agreement with other members of the council, so you decided that other members need not participate because you were getting your vote someplace else, which is what you did. Now, I think it's very important that we get one thing straight. The county code is very clear, and it should be displayed. Section 206. Council districts. Baltimore County is divided into 7 districts enacted in accordance with Section 207 of this charter. Revision of councilmatic districts, Section 207. Redistricting commission composition, not later than March 1st after each decennial census of the United States. The county council shall establish a resolution, a councilmatic redistricting commission. The commission shall be composed of 5 members appointed by the county council. A person who holds elective office is not eligible for appointment to the commission. Commission action. The commission shall hold at least 3 public hearings held by October 15th of that year in which the commission is appointed. The commission shall recommend that the county council legislation revise, amend, and reconstitute, but not to increase or decrease the number of councilmatic districts in effect at that time. The legislation shall provide for councilmatic districts that are compact, contiguous, blah, 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 blah. So the point I'm making is there are those that are trying to say that since it's not a census in decennial, then therefore this provisions do not count. The reality is this is the only place in the county charter that it talks about council districts and revision of those districts. Therefore, you have to look at this as the plain language of the charter and the plain language of the law. You can't say because the word decennial is in there that the topic revision of councilmatic districts don't count. Nor can you say some other things. At the end of the day, it's the totality of what we're reading. And the code is clear on councilmatic districts and how they change them.
Okay, who knows what they meant in 1956? Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I do appreciate your remarks on the history of how we got here. And we got here by a roll call vote on a bill that included a map. That map was part of a bipartisan compromise. And there was a roll call vote on that bill. Mr. Bostwick or someone, what was the roll call vote on 4724? As amended? I'm sorry, I should have prompted you guys for that.
5-1. 5-1.
47-24. I'm waiting for official word, Councilman.
Okay, this is tense.
Yes. The final amended version.
5-1. I mean, excuse me, 6-1.
6-1?
Yes, sir.
So
Couldn't have been
6-1.
I'm sorry.
we have someone absent?
It was 5-1, and there was one absent.
We have one absent. Okay, 5-1, one absent. Okay, it's 5-1, one absent. So Councilman Jones, 5-1, sounds like consensus to me. So there was an agreement reached with the bill to expand to 9 members with a map attached to it. That was the agreement. Now, let's boil it down to what this really is about. Democrats don't like the map because there's 4 Republican-leaning districts in the map and only 5, God forbid, only 5 Democratic-leaning districts on the map. So the Democrats don't like it. Why do you think that delegates from Annapolis are here today and testifying? Because they're used to getting their way. That's why. We had an agreement, and now you want to spin around, counteract that agreement, because Democrats don't like the map, because you guys don't think you're going to get enough seats. That's the way it's always been. That's not the way it has to be now, because we reached a compromise, a bipartisan compromise, and worked together on it. And now we're going to turn around and tell the people that we can't act that way anymore, and we're going to go as partisan as we can possibly be for now the future of the council, because we can't trust each other. Have any single one of you, when they gerrymandered the congressional districts, the legislative districts, is any council member go down to Annapolis and tell them how to vote and what to do? How dare they come up here and tell the county council what to do, and that what we did is wrong in their eyes? How dare they? We don't get involved in their business. But somehow it's okay for them to represent one party because they don't like the map, because they're not getting the supermajority that they want in the map. That's what this is about. That's the only thing that this is about. It's not about how many people a particular council member represents. My office does just fine representing 125,000 people. I think every single one of you would agree with me that your offices do just fine representing 125,000 people. Do you need 30,000 less? Or can you not handle that extra 30,000? Then it was about diversity. But now it's not about diversity, because none of the people that were advocating for expansion of the council ever campaigned for an African-American candidate that ran against Councilman Ertel. An African-American candidate that ran against Councilman Marks. None of them ever campaigned for those folks. So this is about Democrats wanting control of the Baltimore County Council and getting as many seats as they possibly want. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Jones.
No, I can appreciate your comments, Councilman Crandall. But to be clear, and maybe I have misspoken when I invoke Democrats and Republicans in a gerrymandered map. Let's back up and talk about what it is about for me. For me, it is about fair maps and fair elections. And what that means is every citizen in Baltimore County has a right to choose the representative of his or her choosing. And the only way that happens is when they go to the ballot and have a fair chance at electing the representative of their choice. I watched in sort of sadness. I was happy with the Ravens' performance against Kansas City.
They lost.
I know they lost, but I was happy with their performance. I wish they had won. But they had a fighting chance. And at the end of the day, they came up short. But imagine a scenario where when they first flipped the coin, Kansas City had 35 points and the Ravens had 0. and that's the way they were going to play the game. They were going to start off at a deficit of 35 points. And that's the kind of thing that happened on this map. There are communities where the maps were shifted in such a way that the citizens, when they go to vote, the candidate of their choice could be behind by 35 points and would have a heck of a time trying to catch up and win. So it's about the citizens of Baltimore County having an opportunity to choose the candidate of their choice, and that candidate have a fair opportunity to get elected. When we heavily gerrymander maps anywhere, whether it be the federal, state, or local, when we heavily gerrymander maps, we are taking the choices away from the citizens. And I just don't think that is correct. If you look at the map that was put forth, if you don't want to see, if you don't understand anything else, just look at how 35 or 20-some thousand Democrats were taken out of District 3. I'm trying not to get too far into the weeds because at the end of the day, it's about citizens having equal opportunity to pick the candidate of their choice. And that requires a fair map.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Jones.
Councilman Jones, 5 members said that map was fair.
That is correct. I think.
And then a few weeks later, we're saying it's not.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Marks, and we'll go to Councilman Young.
Because you said.
Councilman Young.
No, just, you mentioned about an agreement. I'm not aware of what, I guess I'm just saying that I wasn't included in the agreement related to maps, but I'm trying to understand here. There was an agreement on the map that was passed 5-1 by this body, but also acknowledging at the same time that the map that was necessary for those votes was also being planned on being changed later anyway? Is that what I'm just trying to clarify, because you're saying there's an agreement on a map, and while there was an amendment to allow for revisitation of the map, I'm just trying to clarify that in order to get that passing vote, folks were brought in to agree to something, and while that same intent was to then change that agreement later?
It was not my understanding that the map that was passed with 4724 would be changed. It would not be changed. That was my understanding.
Okay.
Clarify, there was an amendment put in by Councilman Katz that allowed for a change.
Correct.
Right. That night.
Yeah, but let me explain that I put the amendment on the bill to allow the map to be changed all the way through October of 2025, because I felt that there was not enough public input, that it wasn't a open and transparent.
Agreed.
That's why I did it. It had nothing to do
Agreed,
with.
Councilman.
Nothing.
No, I agree with you, because you mentioned that clearly. I was just saying that from the other comments, it sounded like there were folks that, of the 5, that also anticipated completely on addressing the map separately after the fact.
Well, it's the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
Okay, and I just have to say, Maryland has a lousy record in regard to redistricting and gerrymandering. The 3rd congressional district for the 10 years previous was described as the most gerrymandered district in the United States of America, the most gerrymandered. And also, there's no doubt that this current legislative map is gerrymandered. You don't have districts that go like this, which we do. That's gerrymandering. It is definitely gerrymandering. So, I was upset that people who voted for the map were complaining about the map we have being gerrymandered. If you look at our map, it is not a gerrymandered map. It just is not. And again, my problem is lack of openness, lack of transparency, lack of public input, which is why I put in this amendment. So I just want everybody to know that. because I'm a big believer in openness and transparency. By the way, our school board, it's set up the way it is by councilmatic district, et cetera, because of legislation that Delegate Olszewski, Delegate Lafferty, and I introduced and got passed through the legislature. And, as an example of wanting the people to have a role in electing the school board. I believe in the people. I also believe in the 7 people up here. I believe in all 7 people up here. I believe in our ability and our willingness and our desire to do what's right. Actually, that this is a fine group of council members. And you're not going to find me saying that, just for the sake of saying it. This is a fine group of people. It's a group that works together and wants to serve the people of Baltimore County. We don't worry about party affiliation at all. Yet. I hope it never gets to that. This is a very divisive bill. To be honest about it, it's very divisive. And, I'm optimistic that we as a council will do what's right. I'm absolutely sure of it, which is more than the legislature did with the legislative redistricting and the congressional redistricting prior to this one. So, as I said, I'm not one to criticize people much. I love the state legislature, loved it. Worked with both sides all the time. Wasn't a problem at all. But, I just believe in basically, when it came to redistricting, it was not the best process, and the outcome was not the best.
Councilman Young?
Thanks. Councilman Crandall, just wanted to make sure I pointed out that I got to know you from a working perspective the last 2.5 years. Come to rely on your positions and the dependability of your convictions. Even if I disagreed with you, a yes was a yes, a no was a no. And I, as we're talking about parties from the other side, have come to pay attention to that and respect it when you give it. You were against the expansion from the beginning, and you were against the work group that created the recommendations that turned into the referendum.
Correct.
You were against the referendum. I'm not against, by any means, changing position. I'm just letting you know that out of the respect that I've gotten to know you, you choosing to vote for it was enough to give me pause.
Well, Councilman, when you go through a deliberative process and you listen to your fellow members and you see that we could possibly go to 9 if there are enough votes to ask the voters if they would like to go to 9 or not. The risk that I wasn't willing to take was that the advocates that were pushing for 11 members, an expansion that I could not get on board with, would get enough signatures for 11, and 9 would not be on the ballot for the voters to have a choice. So that's why I changed my mind, because at that point in time, we did not know if going to 11 members was going to be on the ballot or not. So then it came to, okay, well, 9 is better than 11, and a choice for the voters, if it comes to that, is the best thing.
Right.
And then subsequently, I did not have a hand in drawing the maps. I'm not sure exactly who did or who made amendments to the maps before it ever got on the record. I did not. But if there was a map that represented the necessary, in my mind, the necessary political diversity, then we have an agreement.
Right.
So that's how I arrived at changing my position. And I still feel that we should stay at 7.
Right.
However, the reality was that we could potentially go to 11. I did not want.
And if I could, sorry, Mr. Chairman, just want to make sure I said that.
Go to Councilman
didn't mean, absolutely, didn't mean for you to, I wasn't trying to challenge.
No, I don't take it.
I just wanted to, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure that,
Pat, I don't take it, no, you're asking me about factual things and where I was on certain issues, and you're absolutely correct, that's where I was.
I also wasn't trying to catch you. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that in terms of the engagement with the other council members, including yourself, and while we don't agree or on the same side of voting on these things, the choice you made and the impact you've had was enough to give me a second to think, well, what's going on? And in terms of a process, I wish I would have had or had been privy to an agreement, to at least had an opportunity to weigh in on that agreement. But I still don't exactly know what it was. I mean, I know that something was done to get folks.
Well, I can tell you and everyone else that there was no formality to it. And when we got on the dais, I wasn't sure where everyone was going to go on it.
Sure.
But
Let me give Councilman Ortell a chance.
yeah, so
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, we just happen to disagree, Councilman.
I agree. No, I'm with
It's not the first or last time.
Will not be.
Right.
I just wanted to add, and we talked about this, we did not know that night whether we were going to get denied. There was absolutely, we walked in here, I just assumed it was going to happen maybe in 2030 because it didn't seem like we were going to get there. One of the things, another thing that needs to be said, we've had a very large African-American population on the west side of the county for a long time. And one of the things we did was create a second majority African-American district on the west side. And again, there's no credit for that. We're being accused of all kinds of things. Our staff, and I feel like Councilman Young and Councilman Jones, you're implicating that we somehow were smoking cigars in a back room, you know, dishing out precincts on where the map was going to be. In fact, it was our staff who came up with that map based on the population. So I don't know if you're saying they're nefarious and maybe we need to come up with.
That anyone's nefarious, Councilman. What are you talking about?
Well, you know, that seems to be, you're implying that somehow there was backroom deals when all this went down.
No one's referencing any backroom deals. Everyone's talking about an agreement that was made to get to 5 votes, but not everyone in this council was included in it, and trying to understand where that came from. And from the position that we still, with all of that, did not have to and should not have drawn a map. That's basically it. And the fact that we're sitting there talking about we're not getting credit for drawing another African-American.
You looked at a map. You looked at a map as well, Councilman Young.
I looked at the map that was presented at the first work session, which was not the same as the one presented, I'm not going to exaggerate, but very close to the second work session. And then you and I talked Friday after having time to deliberate over that map and understand the implication that I saw with it. And I did say to you and to the main sponsor that I would not support this bill without amendments. My amendments did not pass, and then was not included in any other agreement related to the other 5 members that voted for it. So I don't know where you're getting nefarious or you're getting somebody's implying anything. The map shouldn't have been drawn. It shouldn't have been implied. It shouldn't have been used, which is exactly why this legislation is necessary.
Well, when we had a task of, one of the tasks we had was the NAACP has been asked in this, and the ACLU for a long time has been asking for a second African-American district. One of the things that we had to do in order to figure out where that could possibly be was to come up with some form of a map.
We did not have to do that. We chose.
Well, we were just going to guess where it might be. I mean,
a commission would be formed according to the charter to draw it with public input.
Right, and there will be public input going forward to take the map that we had.
Well, that's good to know now, but it seems like some of the other members didn't realize that either.
Can I interject quickly? So when we do legislation, you all know this is kind of rhetorical. Our attorneys vet legislation for its constitutionality, its compliance with Baltimore County Code, and its compliance with COMAR. Mr. Secretary, am I correct in that statement?
Yes.
Is it your feeling or Mr. Benjamin's feeling that the council, when it passed 4724 as amended, did anything illegal?
No, I think is the right answer I wanted to say.
I was hoping that would be the answer, but I mean, bills that don't pass muster before they even get to us are vetted for their legalities and compliance. So I guess I'm not really buying the argument that we didn't follow the code, because clearly it is not spelled out how in, for lack of a better term, midterm, how we would redistrict. Right. And I would add to Councilman Ertel's point is that this map it not only includes an additional majority African American district, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it also includes a minority majority district. Sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Jones?
Are you done, Mr. Grant? Councilman?
Probably not, but
I'll let you reserve the remainder of your time. Let me just say this. I was here as chairman when we did redistricting. You were here as well. It was a tremendous undertaking. It was a tremendous process. We had a redistricting commission. We had so many people testify about what they wanted in their community, not to split their community, bring their communities back together. Please don't do this, don't do this. This was done in the past. It was a tremendous undertaking. And we went through it all. And then when we were done, we were still sued. And then we went through it again. This time we had attorneys. We had another law firm that we contracted out to help us. And it was a tremendous undertaking, and we had a federal judge telling us what we should do to a certain degree and what she wanted and what she didn't want and how she forced us to come together to an agreement. And then in the end, we did what was necessary to satisfy the federal judge, and even the plaintiffs was still not necessarily happy and reserved the right to do other things. That was a tremendous process. And as chairman of the council, I made sure that every member on this dais at that time participated and had their voice and their concerns heard at every step in the process. Whenever the attorney said, should we do this or should we do that, I called the meeting, we all sat on the conference call, and we all came to an agreement. You would have to admit, the drawing of this map was nothing like that other process. The second point I'm going to make, Mr. Boswick, thank you for your interpretation of whether or not it was legal or not. I'm going to ask our county attorney, I'm going to put him on the spot. Do you think it was fair to create a map based on what the county charter states about revision of councilmatic districts? That's the topic, section 207, revision of councilmatic districts.
Councilman.
If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to.
Well, no,
I'm gonna give you a pass.
I feel like I have to.
I don't think it's fair, but go ahead.
No, I appreciate you reaching out. I just feel like for me, as I see it, it's unclear because I just don't know exactly what the vetting process was to ensure compliance. I mean, I can't say that it was illegal, but I don't know sitting here what the vetting process was. I think that what I'm hearing amongst the members is the importance of being able to have this vetting process to ensure compliance of the redistricting plan of the map and make sure things comport with the Voting Rights Act. So I hear what Mr. Boswick has said. I'm coming at it a little bit differently because I think it's important to make sure that there's an opportunity for public review, comment, analysis, that things comport with the Voting Rights Act. It is something that I think that this body is talking about here and the importance of that. So I hope that answers your question.
Mr. Chair, if
Let me go to Councilman Marks, and then we'll come back.
Thank you very much. Councilman Jones, I'm glad you're against gerrymandering because you're going to hear shortly from some of those who participated in it and were beneficiaries of it. Secondly, Chair Patoka, didn't you reach out to each council member? Didn't you try to schedule individual meetings respecting the Open Meetings Act with each council member?
I met with 2 council members at a time. I met with, first with Councilman Ertel and Councilman Young, then secondly with yourself and Councilman Catch, and then I attempted to schedule a meeting. My staff attempted to schedule a meeting with Councilman Jones and Councilman Crandall, and that meeting did not occur. We were not successful in making that meeting happen.
Okay, thank you. Final comment, because I think it's getting late here. Much has been said about 5 Democratic seats and 4 Republican seats. The fact of the matter is that, in my opinion, a good Democrat beats a bad Republican in all of these districts. In all of these districts, I believe the Democrats are the majority. I could be wrong. You know, so let's not say this is a locked in stone 5-4 map. Candidate quality does matter. And what you have is a map that creates battlegrounds across the county, and competition's a good thing.
Mr. Chairman, could I just elaborate on one thing?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary. Sorry, it's been a lot of.
With what Mr. Crandall and Mr. Jones said about the legality of the map. Mr. Jones recited Section 207 of the Charter, and that is currently what the Charter says. If the ballot question that is before the voters, where there are several changes to the Charter proposed, passes, the Charter in Section 207 will change, and it'll change fairly significantly. If one reads Bill 4724 as amended and passed and reads the section related to the Charter, I think that would clear things up very well in terms of the legality and what is happening going forward. I don't need to read it, but thanks. I think anyone sitting in this room, if they read that section of the bill that passed, if that is passed by the voters, that will be the sheet of music that we're all singing off of and playing off of. And that language is pretty clear. If that does not pass, then everything we're talking about here is moot.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do we have any additional comments, questions, or thoughts from the members? And we're going to go to the speakers now because they've been waiting patiently. So I'm going to go with we have quite a few elected officials here, and out of respect to their time, I'm going to ask the elected officials to speak first, and we'll start with Delegate Ebersol, Chair of the Baltimore County Delegation.
Seat might be a little hot. I don't know.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the council, for inviting me to speak. I had a speech written, but after listening for the last hour or so, I feel like there's different things to talk about than I was really going to say. We pretty much agreed, for the most part, that we would like to expand the council. There are some who are against it, but most people feel that some expansion would be necessary. We also agree that this council doesn't have any influence over how the state legislature sets up the Baltimore County School Board. We also agree, I think, that it might be necessary for us to revisit the maps. But really, this bill has 4 things in it, as near as I can figure. It talks about expanding the council. It talks about the maps. It talks about school board. It also talks about some of the working conditions and working priorities of the county council. I'm wondering why these are all in one bill. These are 4 different issues. Now, the mapping will be a necessity if we expand the council, but it seems to me that we should do the mapping, and we've been heavily criticized by several of you at this point, in the same way that you do it at the census, that it should be done as a separate process. not as part of a process where compromises are made about other things that may or may not be related to them. And so it seems to me that what we need to do is separate these four, and this is what this bill does. It pulls three of them out and says, let's do the big one. Let's expand the council. And then those other things would fall in, or you could have other legislation addressing each one of those and have a very public process of taking a look at those. This referendum will not have all that information in it in the question when a voter comes to vote for it. They won't know. Now, I've heard you express confidence that this is not something that the council can tell us to do, and yet the specificity of what's written in that section is alarming to me, because the legislature has already begun, several of us have already begun discussing how we will pivot and react, since our legislation, the state law, ties the school board to the number of council members there are. And we may change parts of that, or we may change the size. We can expand or reduce. We could do that anytime, but we may do it in reaction to the council's action, because the council controls the size of the council, and we have that in that language in state law. But there's no reason to tell us exactly how we should do that in a letter. If you have a letter wanting to say, hey, we're alerting you, we're making a change, maybe you guys should think about what you're going to do. I'm all for that. That's a good thing to make sure the council, the legislature knows that. But your confidence that that's the way it should go, I'm not sure I share that confidence. And in talking to some of the legislators, we're considering other alternatives about that. I've also heard a great deal of confidence that, and Councilman Ketch, I appreciate the amendment that we might reconsider the map, but there's nothing here saying you have to do that. And everybody's like, I'm sure we'll do that. I'm sure that's going to happen. Why not just pass this bill and pull it out and make it happen? Be sure that it happens. Be sure that we revisit. Now, I'm not here to tell you if your map is good or bad, because you've told me I can't do that, and I agree with you. It's your map. I have an opinion on it, but that opinion is not an official one, and it is not one that I need to tell you. I can tell my own councilman how I feel about this map and ask him to vote in the way I want him to. But you will eventually decide on the map, not us, just the way we decided on our map. But we had a special session for that map, and we were focused only on looking at that map, and we did not sort of mix concepts together when we did that map. And I would encourage you to do that as well. Lastly, I heard a statement that, and I'm going to quote, this bill would not have passed. It would have never gotten passed had these things not been attached to it. I hear a lot about bipartisanship, but it seems to me that this council in a bipartisan way could have passed an expansion with the confidence that you've all given each other, the respect you have for each other, that then after that, you could have worked on the other issues meaningfully. And with that, I thank you very much for letting me testify.
Thank you, Delegate Ebersol. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Delegate Ebersol? Okay, Delegate Ebersol, appreciate you coming.
Once again, I appreciate your time.
To speak with us. Okay, our next speaker will be the hailing from the 44th District, Delegate Alethea McCaskill.
The hot seat for the legislators of Maryland. Thank you all for warming it up. Good evening. For the record, I am Delegate Alethea McCaskill from 44B. So I too came here with a whole nother speech. And I have since tucked it away in my folder after listening to some of the things that have been said. So I kind of want to take this on a rebuttal mode. I heard that we were going to be expanding the county council and there was going to be an introduction of legislation. And I knew that. And I thought that that's a good thing. What I did not know is that all of the other inclusive legislation language was going to be in it. And I think that I have a pretty good relationship with some of you on the council. And so I had Friday night, Saturday when I was able to actually get some confirmation. And then I didn't really know about this until that Monday. of how to proceed and to get some questions answered. And so some of the things that I want to make sure that I say is, one, I'm in support of 4724. I heard that we have some should've, could've, maybes. Perhaps when this is all over, we can get this done if we are all still here. But some of you may not be here when this is done. So we need to make sure that it's codified correctly, which means in the beginning, there should not have been a map included in this legislation. And so some of you already have publicly agreed that that should not have happened. And so my concern is not just as a citizen of 44B in Baltimore County, but it is also coming from constituents. I have been inundated with the concern that there was a lack of transparency from this council when it came to the maps and the process of how this was supposed to be. And I always go back to, there should not have been any maps included in the very beginning. And so I would like to, I feel chastised because I heard something about we're just complaining at the state level. No, we're not complaining. We're actually we're explaining the very sentiments of our constituents. When folks call or email, I don't say first, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? So I don't know when they call what side of the party they're on. I have no idea. But what their concerns have been is that this was not done in a clear view. So whether it was a backyard or in the smoke room that this was done, I don't know. But what we do know is it's clear that there was a very huge lack of public support. I don't know that after this has been done, if any of you have gone back to your constituents as a whole, not just your party, and had a real conversation with your constituents of exactly how they feel about the inclusion of these maps. Because now that you have the inclusion of these maps, which will more than likely end in, we will have to make this, we'll definitely have to go to court if it continues and we don't, reconsider some of these other language that we have for this particular new bill. Listen, we don't want to tie the citizens up in court. We just want to make sure that they are heard. And you cannot keep having the moments of, we spoke to our constituents and this is what they want. Because I don't know if that's necessarily true. Because when folks complained, I never asked what their party was. However, there are some who let me know what their party was clearly. And so I just want to make sure that I express, because my speech was for something totally different for tonight, that there is not complaining, there's concern. There's not concern just on us as legislators. We are concerned, our concerns are coming from our constituents, and at least I can speak for myself. There was not ever supposed to be a map in the beginning, and there is. And so I would like to hopefully, and it may not happen tonight, and maybe we can contact one another and have individual conversations and I would love to do so moving forward, because I've also heard that you don't get into our business at the state level and we shouldn't get into yours, but that's really not the attitude we should have. We all really should be working collectively for the benefit of constituents. And so this is not necessarily so much as a chastising, although I feel that as legislators, we have literally been put in the hot seat here in boiling water. But what I will like to say is I had only heard about the expansion and I thought it was great. None of us disagree with that. What we do disagree with is that there should not have been maps included. And there should have been a transparent process for moving forward. And so I just want to hopefully have you all who are opposed to this current legislation of the 70-24, really have some real conversation with both sides of the aisle in your district. Is there a question of whether or not we need to expand? We do. We need to expand here in Baltimore County. There should not be a question if we should. And so I just want to make sure that I express the fact that we're not complaining, but there is great concern. And we would like to make sure that you are just as concerned what the constituents have to say. And at this point, I just feel like that has not been taken into accountability. So I thank you for your time. I hope you will take all that has been said and will be said into consideration as we move forward with this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate McCaskill. Any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Delegate McCaskill? Let me just say this, Delegate McCaskill. You and I have had a history of working collaboratively together.
Absolutely.
For our constituents, and I look forward to that continuing into the future. And it's been a pleasure working with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilman.
I want you to know that I represented part of your district in the legislature. Did you know that?
Yes. Yes, I do, and I appreciate it.
Great area.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Councilman Marks has a comment.
Delegate, thank you for
Yes.
coming today. The Essex Middle River Civic Council, which represents most, if not, I think most of what would be the new District 8, has supported the map.
Could you repeat that? I apologize.
The Essex Middle River Civic Council, which is nonpartisan, does support the map.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and no further questions. Thank you so much, Delegate
Appreciate it.
McCaskill. Appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Absolutely.
Okay, our next speaker will be Kathleen Bedell.
This is a hard one to sit down for. Good evening, Chairman Patoka and members of the County Council. My name is Kathleen Bedell, and I'm testifying against 724. I've been a community and civic leader for over 30 years, and I'm currently president of Greater Timonium Council, and I'm on the board of directors for the Fairground and the State Society of Agriculture, and I've held positions on many boards for Baltimore County, the state of Maryland, and for nonprofits. By being on these boards, I've learned that people who serve together in these organizations must work together to get the most positive, important things accomplished for whom they represent. I feel they try to be fair and honest with each other and work to establish trust with each other to get the important things done. When Bill 4724 was passed in July by a bipartisan vote of 5-1, it was because the County Council had created a fairly drawn redistricting map. The map, as drawn, had created an ability for Republicans to be competitive in some of, or many of, the 9 districts. This is why 4724 was passed by the 5 councilmen and passed in good faith that the citizens could be represented in a fair, bipartisan manner. And believe me, this map was shared with citizens across Baltimore County, not only on the county council website, but also by all of us community organizations spreading it around. I'm quite sure, could probably never prove it to you, but quite sure I saw it on WBAL, big as all. People knew about the map, and there was an easy opportunity at 2 council sessions for people to come testify if they had any concerns. Plus, this bill provides an opportunity through Councilman Koch's amendment for true community input and revisions, with all changes done by October 25. In my opinion, 7D24 is an example of a political bait and switch, and by repealing the districting map in Bill 4724, instead of simply making some revisions to the map in the process described, it seems to me that people want to possibly engineer the map for other reasons. And I hope that that isn't for our beautiful Baltimore County to become a one-party county like we already have at the state and federal levels. For this to be proposed, once again, raises the level of distrust and adds to the lack of confidence that our citizens sometimes have toward our county council. I'm going to finish because they weren't timed.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Patoka. Lastly, please understand that I believe when it comes to citizens of Baltimore County, they want the best for their area in which they live. It does not come down to political party. People working together to help protect their communities don't know or even really care who is in what political party. They really just want to work together to have a safe area to live and good schools, appropriate class sizes, and good roads and public services. It's not a political party issue. I urge you to vote against this bill, 724. And I'd like to say one other thing. If I was in the House of Delegates and my constituents called me that they were upset about the transparency of a map that was used, I would, as that delegate, first of all and foremost, tell them to call their appropriate county council person, and I would have reached out to that county council person for clarification and information so I could properly inform my constituent who called me on the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bedell. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Ms. Bedell? Okay, hearing none. I recognize that I have overstepped my authority here, and I'm going to turn over the calling of speakers to Ms. Belcastro.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Caitlin Klim-Kellner, who is on virtually. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Patoka, Councilman Artel, and members of the Baltimore County Council. For the record, my name is Caitlin Klim-Kellner, and I am a community leader, advocate, and lifelong resident of District 6 in the Overly Fullerton area. I was also a former candidate for Baltimore County Council, and I am testifying in support of Bill 7024. I too had a whole speech prepared for this, and it's kind of out the window now. But as you know from my previous testimony, I support expanding the county council, although I wish it was 11 seats. And I stated to you in that testimony that I was concerned about the maps. I was worried that it was going to divide communities that are currently working together and further the pitting against communities that feel like they are already pitted against each other. My concerns are even worse now, and I'm actually really concerned about the lack of community input. Community input is not a dirty word. Yes, there were two work sessions and there was a legislation session. That is a privilege to be able to attend those at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right now in my community, there are 4 events going on tonight. Not everybody has that privilege. Some people have to work. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a town hall and wanting to have more community input and more transparency. Particularly, you all have heard me testify about how we need more community input from Parkville, Overly, Rosedale, Elmwood. There is nothing wrong with wanting to have a town hall about this or a meeting about the redistricting and the maps in that area inside the Beltway. 2 of you even heard me ask specifically for a meeting for those communities because so many communities feel like they are in the dark about this right now. I am respectfully asking that you open up that dialogue with us. There's nothing wrong with listening to your neighbors or listening to a neighboring councilmatic district that you share a border with. In addition, we're also worried about the possible lawsuit that this sets up. You know, as someone who advocates for funding for ADA accessibility or parks and green space in underserved communities, a lawsuit I view that as taxpayer money that could be pulled from there to serve a lawsuit that could be taken back, that could be stopped by 7024. So on that note, and again, my whole speech is just out the window. Please listen to the communities that want to have additional input. Community input is not a dirty word, and we respectfully request a meeting in that area. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Clem-Kellner. Do any of the members have any questions, comments with Councilman Ertel?
Thanks, Caitlin. Your comments are always appreciated, and we will definitely do some town halls.
Thank you.
Either way.
Any additional comments from Ms. Clem-Kellner? Thank you so much, Caitlin. Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker, who is on virtually, is Scott Sewell. Mr. Sewell, you may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
And I'm speaking, I have a prepared statement that I'd like to make a remark. I'm speaking on behalf of the Rockaway Beach Improvement Association, which comprises all of Turkey Point, Barron Schmidt, and Cape May areas of eastern Baltimore County. Our community has become aware, our community association has become aware of efforts to rescind the bipartisan redistricting map, which would create new council districts should the ballot initiative expanding the council pass this November. Our community wishes to express our support for the existing bipartisan map and urge the council not to play politics, engage in gerrymandering, or to assert what is the right in the interest of what is politically beneficial for any one party or group. Baltimore County citizens deserve fairly drawn, bipartisan, and politically neutral maps. Providing such affords the opportunity to have a good candidates from both sides and have a fair and equal chance, which is the bedrock of our democracy. We would implore the council to leave the maps alone. Then on a personal note, I'd like to say that I've lived in Baltimore County all my life. I'll be 74 years old next month. I'm a retired state trooper. I spent most of my career working in Baltimore County. It just bothers me that here we have something that was drawn up, a bipartisan map that was agreed to by a 5-to-1 vote of our council. And it's things like this that makes people lose faith in their government. It's just too much partisan politics in DC, in Maryland. I don't want to see Baltimore County, which I love Baltimore County. Like I said, I lived here all my life. Let's not go down that rabbit hole and become like the state and what's going on in Washington, D.C. That's all I have to say. Thank you for hearing my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Sewell.
Hey, Scott, it's Todd Crandall. Good to hear your voice.
I appreciate your remarks earlier too, Todd.
Well, thank you, Scott. Long time no see.
Councilman Marks? No. Okay. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Patricia Fallon. One moment, Councilman. Our next speaker is Patricia Fallon.
I'm here trying to unmute.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I didn't know I was unmuted. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm Patricia Fallon, and I'm chairman of the Baltimore County Republican Party, and I'm here to speak against Bill 7024. Back, I guess, a couple months ago, I testified during the work group hearings where they were even deciding if they were going to recommend the expansion. I testified against the expansion because in 2022, I ran for delegate on the west side in Council 4 area. And what I saw over in that area was outside influences were trying to really force this and push this expansion. It wasn't, the genesis wasn't from Baltimore County. These are from the outside, and it was funded from the outside, and I testified to that. And because of that, that's why I voted and I testified against the expansion. Because something like that really should have its genesis from inside, from the citizens of the county. I know the citizens of the county got on board with it, that's for sure, so on the west side. But again, I really was very suspicious of what I saw. But then the bipartisan work that did occur, trying to really expand to 9 seats, the 2 additional seats, which really represented the communities of similar interests, provided a unified voice for the communities. There was improved representation, it was a fair and balanced map, and the change of the composition of the boards all appeared to better represent the citizens of the county. So then I testified that I supported the next bill, 4724, to expand to 9 seats. So now what I'm seeing, though, is interference, just like I saw when I was back in 2022. I see interference from Annapolis and outside influences again, trying to force their agenda and their map on the citizens of the county, rather than letting the citizens and the council members decide what is this map going to be. This is just like the 4 bills that Annapolis pushed on our county, forcing high-density housing into Baltimore County, eliminating the rightful authority of our council for zoning and development decisions. Our council then did at least pass that 1 bill fighting back. But this is the same group of people that are trying to exert influence from Annapolis into our county. And now they want to take over the districting map. Instead, the outside interests would like to come into our county, and what my opinion is to extend their gerrymandering style of mapping. And what this does is it disenfranchises whole communities and voters. Gerrymandering divides similar communities, it divides residents, it divides streets, it divides neighborhoods, it divides local communities, and it deprives them of their voice. I see outside influencers trying to bring that into Baltimore County. Instead, the wisdom of the council that passed the 4724 bipartisan bill allowed a date of October 2025 to make changes and adjustments, knowing that there may be some. So what is wrong with that date? Nothing. It allows input to be brought in from all of the different communities to create a map that they may be more comfortable with. It is clear that Annapolis, through some of the people on this council, and some of the people on this council are conduits for the agenda of Annapolis and influencers even outside of Annapolis. This work that's being done by some of these council members to force the gerrymandering on our county is going to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of voters. And it may even force the courts to make the final decision, which takes the authority completely away from the council.
Ms. Fallon, I'm going to ask you to wrap up. You've gone well beyond your time.
Okay, so I urge the members of the council to vote against 7024. Work out the differences that may be there for the map to adjust by October 25, and continue to stand strong against these outside influences that are working to minimize the authority of our council members and disenfranchise the Baltimore County residents. So I do appreciate all the work you are doing, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fallon. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Shafiq Hinton, who is here in person.
Okay, Mr. Hinton.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Shafiq Hinton. I'm from the 6th District on the east side. For the record, I would like to state that we did host a community meeting on the maps and the council expansion. We were lucky enough to have Councilman Artel and Councilman Jones attend our meeting. At that meeting, they both stated that they would support pushing their colleagues to make adjustments to the map. But to continue on with what I had prepared for tonight, I, like myself and many other residents, we do support the idea that Baltimore County Council should expand to better reflect the county's growth, diversity, and voter makeup. I also appreciate the council's steps that they have taken towards this expansion and the creation of a community-led council restructure work group and your initial heed to its recommendations. However, it is concerning that it seems like the process has stopped right there. Despite some council members' core reservations about expanding government and limiting their power, the primary issue remains: are you serving yourself or are you serving the public? That presents a stark conflict of interest and raises the question, do we merely have an illusion of inclusion? It seems you've led voters to believe that you have achieved something historic, yet in reality, the changes are minimal and potentially even reducing their voices and limiting the opportunities for voters to elect the candidate of their choice. The very essence of council expansion was to enable voters to elect their preferred candidate, and a principle that was established by the council restructure working group that you, the council, created. Yet we now face Bill 4724, which, while it expands the council under the guise of a historic victory, it covertly introduces a gerrymandered map. This map actually packs voting groups into condensed areas and fractures communities across several districts. Just take a look at the east side and take a look at the west side of that map that you drew. All of this has been aimed at diluting our voices and securing your power. This approach can only be described as political redlining and a violation of voter rights. In conclusion, I want to remind the council that the people are vigilant and that the people are mobilizing. Despite the concerns from residents, organizations, and state elected officials, some of you are still blinded by your own genius and resist the repeal of this self-serving map. What has been done in secrecy will inevitably be brought into light. If the council does not support Bill 7024 to repeal this map and allow for a legal, community-driven redistricting process in line with the county charter, as warned by the ACLU, we all risk litigation, a cost that falls unjustly on your tax-paying residents. So with a growing coalition of over 150 real residents and supported by a bipartisan effort, it's clear that any action or any inaction that disregards community input will lead to the systematic removal from office for those who demonstrate disqualifying behaviors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Hinton? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hinton. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Bridge Dumais, who is on virtually.
Hello, good evening. My name is Bridge Dumais. I am a homeowner in County Council District 3 and the political coordinator of 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East. 1199 is the largest local union in the United States, and in Baltimore County alone, we represent 2,000 members at hospitals and long-term care facilities across the county. I personally, as a county resident and in my role as political coordinator of 1199, strongly encourage you to issue a favorable report on Bill 7024. As I've stated in previous testimonies, I support increasing the size of the council because it enables the gender and racial demographics of our council to better reflect the demographics of our county. And adding more council members will help to improve constituent services by creating a smaller ratio between residents and their elected officials. Unfortunately, as of now, I cannot vote in good conscience to increase the council size as it would currently appear on the ballot. The current language of the ballot question would implement district maps that were drawn in an undemocratic manner against the advice of community members who have been fighting to expand the county council for years. That is why passing Bill 7024 is so essential. It would expand the council size, which we agree is much needed, and it repeals the district maps in the previous bill to instead allow for a more transparent redistricting process that centers and uplifts community input. More transparency, more process, and more community input when it comes to our democracy is a good thing. And I believe passing Bill 7024 is a fair and reasonable compromise that I would vote for as a county resident and that 1199 SEIU would endorse. So I want to please thank the bill sponsors. I urge the council to issue a favorable report on Bill 7024. And I will turn off my camera momentarily just to add a few more personal comments that are me as a Baltimore County constituent and may or may not, well, we'll leave it there. Personal comment. I want to say thank you so much to the legislators who supported the previous bill and changed your minds. That takes leadership and integrity to admit that maybe we didn't get it right the first time. And not only to admit that it wasn't done right the first time by including the maps in there, but to take it a step further and pass a new bill based on an outpouring of comments from your constituents. That is the kind of leadership that we need. I do not see this as any type of political flip-flopping or going back on deals. I see this as responding directly to what your constituents want, which is a fair and democratic process where we all have input on the maps for our county. And again, those final comments were just me, District 3 resident, Bridge Dumais. Thank you. I urge a favorable report.
Thank you, Ms. Dumais. Councilman Marks has a comment.
Thank you. Question, is your organization nonpartisan?
My organization is accountable to our members. We are a healthcare workers union.
Okay, so I'd be curious to know what Republicans you've endorsed over the years, just out of curiosity.
Well, we operate in 5 states and the District of Columbia, and we endorse in races in all of those areas. So I do not have a list in front of me. I will say we have historically endorsed candidates of multiple parties. I know we have endorsed Republican candidates in some regions. We've endorsed Democratic candidates in other regions. But the point is our endorsement comes from our membership. It's our members telling us who they want to support, participating in candidate interviews where they're able to sit down with all of the candidates running for office, reviewing questionnaires that candidates fill out. So this is a decision that comes out of our membership based on a process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Crystal Mercer, who is here in person.
Okay, Ms. Mercer.
Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Mercer. I'm a District 6 county resident. Been working diligently through the past 2.5, 3 years to serve my local community in various ways. My concern today is strictly about process. Transparency matters. What we do as representatives of the county, regardless of what level you're working on, you have to exhibit integrity, and I do understand that oftentimes includes negotiation and maybe steering away from what your personal position would be for the greater good of meeting an overarching goal, and the end goal should be favorable for all. But how we get there is what matters most. The way that it's done is what matters. And that should be inclusive of public acknowledgement, input, and disclosure. And the fact that I've heard today amongst you all that there's varying recollections of how this map came to be is alarming. It is embarrassing. And I frankly feel like you all should be ashamed, because you have one of your own sitting here telling us that this map was not disclosed to him as a participant of the council. That's ridiculous. With the amount of technology and accessibility that we've afforded some of our residents to speak from the comforts of their home or office or workplace, surely Mr. Young should have been able to view a map before it was enacted upon. That's all I have to say. Process matters, transparency matters. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms.
Mercer. Ms. Mercer, if I may. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Councilman Young had every opportunity to look at a map. In fact, he did see it because he voted on it. He voted no on the bill. He saw it. It was available publicly, as was testified earlier. The map was out there for the whole legislative cycle. How long is our legislative cycle, Mr. Chair?
Our legislative cycle?
Yeah, 60 days.
We have a meeting, we have a first consideration meeting and a work session.
I'm sorry, I caught you while you were zoning out on something else. But there as has been testified, there was opportunity for input, not only in work sessions, but we all have phones and we all have emails. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Now that you've been promoted to councilman. I'm sorry, but the councilman had every opportunity to look at a map and to even weigh in on the map if he wanted to. I don't know if he did or not, but he had every opportunity to do so. To say that he didn't is inaccurate, and I'm sorry, but I'm not ashamed. So you can take your shame somewhere else.
Councilman,
not on me.
Also, just to clarify, I did see the map. I don't think I implied that I didn't. I think, but what I did say was that the map that was passed was introduced very shortly before the second work session for everyone to see. It wasn't available for the entire process of the consideration of the referendum. And it was only the Friday before the vote on a Monday, after that Tuesday, that we had a chance, or I felt like I had a clear handle on what that map represented. And my answer to weighing in on the map was putting in amendments to then get rid of the map. So that was my interpretation of it. Also, just to, I think you also heard me saying that there wasn't ample time to consider the map that was passed. But yes, so just wanted to clarify that, but yes.
Councilman Jones?
Yes, Ms. Mercer, thank you so much for testifying today. To your point, I'm going to go back to when I was chair and we did redistricting. We did not touch or alter anyone's district without their knowledge and consent. And we made consensus with everybody's district. There were changes made to this map that I had no knowledge of. There were changes when a reporter called me and asked me why was I changing things in my district. And I said, what are you talking about? So the reality is I had no input on this map. I did not make the map. I did not decide how my district will be cut up. And hey, listen, I'm sure some people would appreciate it, but the reality is the folks of the 4th District voted for me to represent them. They make their they make their wishes and desires and concerns known through me. So this map was made not by me.
Councilman, do you recall stating that exact same thing when 4724 came to a vote? Because that was your time to say it.
Well, the map had been changed many times before I even knew about it.
Councilman Jones, is it your intention to have, when we go to non-districts, is it your intention to remain with 120,000 residents in your district?
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about here today. What we're talking about is process. We're talking about the county charter. We're talking about following a process that is outlined in the county charter and not creating a map that is, as you all would add, heavily gerrymandered, that had little or no input from the community. And clearly, having been through the process of redistricting, you know how arduous that process is, and this looked nothing like that.
Could I ask Mr. Phillips, when the map that we're discussing was distributed to council members, and then secondarily, when it went up on the website? Let's take the mystery out of this. And why don't we go on to the next speaker for the sake of time?
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Always good to see you.
So looking back at my, my own notes, it does look like there was a map as introduced in June, early June. There was a map at the work session. I have here labeled June 25th. There was a final map labeled July 1st, which was the vote, the day of the vote. Now, I label them by the date of the event. And I believe that the July 1st map, which is the final one, was posted in time for our, it was posted at least on Friday by 10 a.m. Because that's what our deadline was for amendments. And this was an amendment to Bill 47.
So this met the guidelines of all administrative processes we have in terms of posting things on the website. It met all of the notifications that we're required to do. I know that's mostly for meetings, but we do have a process. I think Councilman Young was the author of that process to have certain pieces of information. And I think all the council members are aware that that's what our process is. And so if you're interested, you know that we have a deadline of Friday. It was Friday, is that correct? Monday? And the map was up before that Monday. So everyone did have an opportunity, knowing what our legislative process is, to take a look at it, to have deliberation on it, to discuss it. Councilman Jones?
No, I was just going to ask Mr. Phillips. He was very eloquent in listing those different dates. Are you implying that it was one map throughout the whole process, or were the maps changing? Were there amendments made throughout the process? I mean, I'm not sure if you know how many, but.
Well, yeah, in fact, we were just kind of talking very silently amongst ourselves about that. The map that was introduced is, and the map that was then changed for the work session on 6/25, and then the map that was eventually on 7/1 passed by the members, those maps are, now, you know, this is not a term of art, but those maps are very similar. There's not a whole lot of, there is some tweaking to, because they did change. There is some tweaking to those maps. So are they the same map? No. Did the maps change? Absolutely. Did they make wholesale changes to from point A to the end, point B? No. But yes, they did change. But they were also put on our website each time, so people could view them. And yes.
So we have an obligation, and Mr. Hinton talked about our obligation to our constituents. We also have an obligation to pay attention to what will be coming on our agenda and what our deliberations will be. And I think it's important for us to take that seriously.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Young.
Question, Mr. Phillips, also Mr. Boswick. The first maps that were introduced, what was the rationale for the form that it took in terms of the districts that were drawn? What were considerations that were used? To draw the map, what did you use as considerations for drawing the shapes, the sizes, the different areas and communities in drawing the map? Was it population?
It was all of the things that go into a map drawing of this sort. And I don't mean that, I mean that in a sense that we looked at population, we looked at demographics, we looked at the legal requirements of compact, contiguous districts that give due consideration to communities. We looked at the Voting Rights Act and the racial components of the county. So
first map.
Yes.
What considerations were utilized in drawing the second map?
Well, I guess I should also add on the first map, there were political considerations as well.
Using what?
I'm sorry?
Using what? What data do we have available to us?
Using census data and...
Census data for political demographics?
No. For political demographics, we were taking, we were being guided by the council members that sponsored the bill and that
Right, the first map.
gave input.
Yeah, we all gave input. We all sort of were shared with us in terms of what it would look like to capture and reach the goals from the first map that was introduced that didn't have 5 votes. The second map that was introduced that we were aware of, but it's also not the same to talk about a verbal or a written amendment to a bill, just as bad as it is to draw a amendment that's 4 or 5 pages long and introduce it on a Monday morning. To say that the maps were introduced and there was a discussion surrounding them, or that they weren't introduced or that they weren't discussed or deliberated over is disingenuous. We had the maps. We didn't understand exactly what the changes were or what the political demographics were or changes were until later in that week. And then once that was identified, amendments were drawn up to address the understanding of those maps. To say that somebody didn't understand what that map meant just because it was introduced on the day of the work session, but not discussed beforehand, that's completely disingenuous. We're all aware of the process that we've unanimously voted on so that there would be an amendment process, because prior to that, there was no amendment process. Technically, you could have addressed a map or introduced a map the day of the voting session, and we would have had to eat it and vote on it. But that's not the case. Because of our open process, we were able to take a look at it after it was introduced, make determinations, and then act accordingly through amendments. I guess I'm pointing out that my understanding, if we're going to be transparent, is that the first map was done based on population, racial demographics, and other things that go into it. And the second map was drawn specifically or overwhelmingly using the breakdown of political parties.
I can't confirm that, Mr. Young. All I can do is tell you that in response to changes that were requested, tweaks to the map were done. You know, I can't get into the heads of your colleagues.
I'm not asking you to, Mr. Boswick.
Well, and I understand that, but I'm just saying.
Who made the request for changes between, I mean, not that there's a second work session for this, but I mean, honestly, I appreciate your candor on it. I got some questions that we can have offline leading up to the next work session, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments on this?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify that for every map, Tom and I did consider all of the legal needs that go into it, such as the Voting Rights Act and equal apportionment. So we did do the legal due diligence on that part for every map that was that we've discussed here today.
Appreciate the comments, Ms. Phillips. I don't think anybody's trying to imply otherwise.
And Mr. Phelps, could I just ask another question related to that? Did you have a discussion with each council member related to, you know, we all go to community meetings every night. We're kind of the first touch a resident might have with Baltimore County because of the way we all collectively outreach to communities. Did you have a chance to meet with each council member to get their best estimate of what a fair map would look like in the districts that they currently serve?
I did have discussions with every single member, but I mean, to be fair to each one of you, in which I and Tom serve as your lawyer, I don't think it's fair for us to go into the specifics of conversations we had.
And I'm not asking to do that. I just wanted to make it public and let everyone know that you, as the technical staff on the assembly of a map, did offer input to every council member.
Yes, yeah, I
Thank you.
had discussions
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
with each one.
Okay. We have any more speakers left, Ms. Belcastro?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a few more.
Okay,
Our
sorry
next-
for the sidebar, everyone.
Our next speaker is Eric Rockel, who is here in person.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I'm speaking in opposition to Bill 7024. When I became a member of the council restructuring work group, there were two major concerns at the forefront of my mind. First, it was to not directly or indirectly promote any gerrymandering. And secondly, it was to try to find a way or ways to encourage more diversity on the council and better representation for the Black communities of Baltimore County. I had seen the consequences of gerrymandering previously. At the state level, it has many times been, in my experience, ridiculous, the amount of gerrymandering. Even to the point after the 2010 census, not my community, but my 300 property subdivision was divided represented by 2 legislative districts. That sort of gerrymandering left a sour taste in my mouth that continued to me to this day and made me sensitive of that issue with regard to the council restructuring. Secondly, with regard to being supportive of more diversity on the council, the majority consensus of the council work group was that there should be 9 council districts. It wasn't the only solution, because other things such as committees or maybe a permanent elected council president were things that may have been able to promote diversity as well, but that didn't have much support from the work group, but ultimately the 9 district did. When Bill 4724 was introduced, I knew from the discussions we had on the work group that every councilman would have to make some compromises, and that if 9 was going to be affected ultimately, that it would take a lot of compromises from each council person. That's why I was encouraged when I saw a bipartisan support of the original Bill 4724. And in looking at the map, just one man's opinion, but that map didn't have any extreme gerrymandering in my estimation that went along with that bill. I'm a little confused here by the fact that we're hearing about parts of 4724 not complying with the county code or state law. I thought that's the reason why the Office of Law looks at all bills and makes comments if they see that a bill or bills are beyond that. Finally, I want to encourage you not to vote for this bill, because there'll be many citizens like myself that will feel it's just a bait and switch mechanism, okay? And particularly in light of the fact that the APFO legislation went through another, what I would call bait and switch maneuvering. I think that will leave a bad legacy for the council people that would vote for 7024. Thank you.
Mr. Rockel, thank you so much for your thoughtful testimony. You always produce some very thoughtful testimony. Can you expand on the bait and switch idea? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about passing one bill so that we get an APFO and then modifying it because maybe a county executive or some other faction doesn't like it, or I'm talking about passing this bill, 7024, because you'll get your 9 council members without any connection to a map, which, as we've heard in previous testimony, there's the ability under 4724 to change that map up until October of 2025. So I don't understand why there's as much criticism directed at the map that was passed with the original bill as there is.
I have one question for Mr. Rockwell. Mr. Rockwell, thanks for being on the structure committee, and I felt like we had a really good group from all around the county that looked at 9, at 11, at 13, at keeping it 7. Can I, and maybe this is not the right, but your opinion of the map that is currently sitting there? You said you didn't feel like we did any major gerrymandering.
Correct.
But in your opinion, what do you think, not so much of the map, but what do you think the most important component of council districts is as a longtime community person?
Most important component?
Well, as far as, should they be more political? Should they be more community oriented? What should a council district try to do?
I think
maybe
a
that's an
council
unfair,
district should
loaded
try
question.
Try to serve its citizens, and I think ultimately the citizens, in the grand scheme of things, are not as concerned about red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican, as they are making sure things work properly, making sure that trains run on time, to use an analogy, and that sort of thing, and seeing that really this politicization has not crept down to the county level. Let it remain in the state and the federal level, and try to keep the county as a nonpartisan, effective way of serving all the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Final speaker for this bill is Peter Richkis, who is here in person.
Okay. Batting cleanup, Peter Richkis. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman Patoka, Councilman. For the record, my name is Peter Richkis, and I'm a Towson resident in District 6. Expanding the Baltimore County Council by 2 members, as proposed, is a step forward for Baltimore County and its citizens. I join with Councilman Young and his 2 co-sponsors, Chairman Patoka and Councilman Jones, to the changes to Bill 4724, called for in Bill 7024. The reference changes to the composition of the school board was eliminated by the County Board of Elections. So the repeal of the school board section 5 of 4724, is totally logical. I also agree with the removal of the contingent redistricting sections and attachments that were part of Bill 4724. One day review by the public of the final map, no review by the public of the well-intentioned and appreciated amendment by Councilman Catch, notwithstanding. By law and practice, the specific lines to be drawn should be a follow-up to the discussion to increase the number of districts. In this case, a decision properly in the hands of the voters for expansion and in the hands of a redistricting commission per the county charter. I thank you for your consideration of these matters, and I add my voice asking that you vote aye on Bill 7024, and I'd be glad to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Richkis. Any members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Ms. Richkis? Okay, thank you so much, Peter.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I misspoke. We do have one more speaker.
Okay, let's do that. So you're not batting cleanup anymore, Ms. Richkis. We have a
My
new cleanup
apologies.
hitter. I still need another sweater. Penultimate. Yes, the penultimate.
Thank you, Peter.
Our final speaker for this bill is Tina Klein, who is here in person.
Okay, Ms. Klein.
don't turn it around, it won't get out. You'll be stuck with me.
That was a nice three-point turn.
They don't teach them how to do that or to parallel park these days.
Oh, my
you know.
goodness.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman Patoka and members of the County Council for providing me with an opportunity to present testimony against Bill 7024, which is to repeal the balanced and fairly redesigned 9-district map included in the Bill 4724. As you are each sworn to be invested in the best interest of serving the Baltimore County communities, likewise, I have been a volunteer on a volunteer basis and have done so for many, many years. By way of introduction, I am a lifelong resident of Maryland. I went to Loyola University, later worked there, and ultimately retired from Johns Hopkins. I currently serve as the president of the York Manor Community Association, which encompasses 394 homes, single homes. Prior to living in Lutherville, I was on the board at Eaton Square HOA, a community of equal size, also in Baltimore County. In addition, I currently serve on the board of the Greater Timonium Community Council and Patient Advisory Board at St. Joseph's Hospital. I volunteer at the Red Cross, House of Ruth, United Way. I was the recipient of the first Community Service Award at Loyola University. I received a Louis T. Goldman Award from the United Way. All of this is a way of introduction to say that while you all don't know me, I am the community for which you serve and I serve. I'm also an election judge and was just approved for the next cohort of the Community Planning Institute through the Department of Planning. My application as notary public is under consideration. For the record, I have also been not only a lifelong resident of Maryland, but I've also been a registered lifelong Democrat. I tell you all of this because I believe when it comes to our communities, being a nice place to live, work, and play is what everyone wants, what's in the best interest of the Baltimore County communities. School class size, adequate public facility needs. However, Bill 7024 includes a change concerning who makes the additional appointments to our Baltimore County School Board. Whatever strategy was used to develop Bill 7024 appears to have been done in a silo. This bill, as written, appears to be without adequate consideration and inclusion from the input of the people in the zones that they serve. Rather, it appears to be unfairly decided by members of the County Council. I believe this bill is an erroneous decision that can result in major negative implications for the residents of Baltimore County. I thank you very much for your time and hearing my testimony. I realize the evening has gotten quite late.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hanging in there with us.
You're very welcome.
Any members have any comments? Councilman?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is going to be, I should have done this earlier, I apologize. Next item is,
Nope.
which item is it?
It's only beginning.
Okay, the next item is Bill 7424, Councilman Marks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This legislation is being put in to allow for one of our local labor unions, the Union of Plumbers and Steamfitters Local Union 486, which would like to operate a training center off Allender Road in White Marsh. They would like to repurpose a building, but unfortunately, the current zoning does not allow those sorts of activities. This is a perfect reuse of this site. I believe the county executive's administration supports this bill. We've had some discussions, and we have a witness who will testify in favor.
Thank you. Ms. Belcastro?
Well, Mr. Chair? I just want to let Councilman Marks know that operating engineers have a similar facility on North Point Boulevard in the 7th District, and it's been, from all indications, it's been successful. And I think that your bill is a nod to the skilled trades. And I know it's something that Councilman Martel is constantly sort of advocating for is for more opportunities for young people to learn a skilled trade and be part of that workforce. So, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Belcastro, and yes, Ms. Belcastro, we have a speaker for this?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our speaker is John Laubach, who is here in person.
Thank you for having me. My name is John Laubach. I'm the Assistant Training Director at the Plumbers and Steamfitters Local Union 486. I'm speaking on behalf of them today in support of Bill 7424, which Councilman Marks introduced. Thank you, Councilman. Local 486 represents nearly 2,000 union trained plumbers and steamfitters. Our members are highly trained craftsmen who fabricate, install, and service piping systems. They may be found on construction job sites throughout Baltimore County and Central Maryland. We are committed to providing high-quality trade education and training to our apprentices. Our mission is to develop skilled and knowledgeable plumbers and steamfitters who are ready to enter the workforce and contribute to the construction industry. We believe that a strong trade education is essential for the success of our apprentices, the future of our industry, and the broader economy in Baltimore County, as well as Central Maryland. We currently have about 400 apprentices in our 5-year program, and that combines intensive technical classroom instruction with on-the-job training as well to ensure a well-rounded education. We are proud to offer this program at no cost to qualified applicants, and we are committed to providing our apprentices with the support and resources they need to succeed in the program as well as the workforce. The union currently has 2 training facilities in Maryland. One is in Baltimore City and one is in Hagerstown. We are in need of space to expand our training program. We have identified a suitable property zoned ML in Baltimore County. It is a large property with an existing building, which we will substantially renovate to provide the shops, labs, classroom space we need to meet the growing demand for our training program. We were surprised to learn that the ML zone does not allow trade schools. Bill 74-24 would allow us to use this ML zone land for our plumbing trade school and our apprenticeship program. We want to thank Councilman Marks for his introduction and support on this bill and for recognizing the importance of trade education. In Baltimore County, we need more skilled tradespeople. The construction industry is a big part of the economy, and there's a real demand for trained plumbers and pipe fitters. Our trade school helps people get the skills they need for these well-paying jobs, and I urge you to support Bill 7424. It is a practical solution that will make a real difference in Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laubach. Councilman Jones?
Mr. Laubach, I thank you for being here. I certainly appreciate your mission, appreciate your work. I look forward to supporting the bill because I certainly support your mission in terms of giving people opportunities and teaching them a trade so they can provide for their families. And on that note, Mr. Boswick, if you don't mind, add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilman Jones.
Any additional speakers? Councilman Martel?
Mr. Laubach, I'm, as Councilman Crandall said, I'm constantly beating on the fact that we really have a skills gap in this county, and a lot of the trades, especially plumbers, steam fitters, you can make a really good living, but a lot of our people don't have that access. So this is going to be perfect, and I'd like to go on as a co-sponsor too. And thank you for. I don't know that you expected when you came in to testify for this seemingly simple bill that you were going to be put through all what we had tonight. So it's sort of like a plumber dealing with a really crappy situation, or a dirty situation.
Oh, man.
I don't mean the bill. I mean the legislative process can sometimes be dirty and, or, more than you thought it was when you got into it, so.
I appreciate that, Councilman. I have a great respect for everything that goes into sitting on a board, as I do that for my local union. So I understand, to a degree. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lawbeck, let me just say, first, let me apologize to you. It was my error. I should have called you up earlier. I apologize for that, but I think what you're doing is outstanding. What you and 486 are doing here with this school and this apprenticeship is you have the jobs of the present, but these are the jobs of the future. And we always get asked, especially from mothers and when they're sending their kids beyond high school, they're preparing for what are the jobs of the future. And they've asked me to define what the job of the future is. And it's sometimes hard, but the trades are the jobs of the future. And so I really commend you for what you do. Again, in my, apologize to the lawyers, they like to wait until the last item because they get billable hours that they get to charge their clients until the very end. But I apologize to you because you're probably not getting billable hours on this.
Perfectly acceptable. I appreciate all the support for the bill.
But you can, Mr. Secretary, please add me as a co-sponsor. And again, I support 100% what you're doing. Councilman Catch.
Very nice.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
There we go.
Got council unity here.
Okay.
For our laborers,
So-
absolutely.
Let the media know we've gone full circle here.
Wait, what are we voting on? No.
Thank you, Chairman. and
Mr.
council
Lawbeck,
members.
thank you for bringing us all back together.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, I would like to be a sponsor on the bill. Thank you.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, sir, but we have everyone?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good.
Okay. Should we fist pump or something? Okay, no. That's a no.
Wait, we're
Thank
not
you
going
so
to
much.
repeal that in 2 weeks, are we?
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you very much.
The follow-up.
Thank you, Dean.
Whoops. Dino LaFiandra did get billable hours.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Oops. Okay. Hot mic. Now, we're going to try to move quickly through the rest of the agenda. A number of the council members have 7 o'clock meetings, community meetings. So sometimes people say this isn't a full-time job, but a number of us have been here all day, and we're going to go to our community meetings a little later. So we're going to try to run through the rest of the agenda. Okay. And if the Councilman Young, did you have a? Okay. 7124, Councilman Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council Bill 7124, Boards, Commissions, Committees, Panels, Foundations, Standardization of Member Compensation Expense Reimbursements pertains to certain members of certain boards, commissions, committees, panels, and foundations, prohibiting such members from receiving compensation of their service on the body of which they serve, but permitting such members to receive certain reimbursements for expenses necessarily incurred under certain circumstances. So this came out of, and one I know Councilman Ertel is a co-sponsor. We have similar situations with members. My particular story comes from the relatively newly appointed members of the Veterans Commission who hosted the Baltimore County's first Veterans Day event last year. They were new. Some of the members spent funds in order to make sure that the event went off well, thinking they could be reimbursed, only find out that they couldn't. And then they came to me. We looked through. Under the current code, they couldn't be reimbursed. So worked with the department, the administration, and also worked with our staff to create language that pertains and also provides accountability for the ability for members of boards to be reimbursed under certain circumstances, those being approval of the board and also making sure, as long as there are funds available from the executive branch, signing off on those requests. That's the crux of it. I will throw it to, if it's all right, Mr. Chair, to Councilman Ertel, if you'd like to.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Yeah, exactly. I don't think there was any intention that if you're on a board and for some reason you had to spend money on napkins or plates for an event or something that you couldn't be reimbursed. And this cleans that up and allows our people that are volunteering their time to be able to be reimbursed for things that they spend money on.
Councilman Jones.
No, if you don't mind, Mr. Boswick, you could add me as a co-sponsor. I certainly, people who, listen, this government runs on boards and commissions, and citizens devote their time and their talent. There's no reason that they should not be reimbursed when they spend their treasure. So add me as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Okay.
Will do.
Councilman Catch. Councilman Catch will co-sponsor. Do you guys want to do all around here? All right, you can add me as a co-sponsor.
Well, hold on yet.
Councilman Cranton.
Councilman Young's going to have to earn it. Sure. No, so Councilman Young, you and I, we discussed this bill earlier today. I just wanted to clarify, if you didn't quite in your opening remarks, this isn't just, I'm going to go spend and hope to get reimbursed. There is a process to this, and approval for an expenditure has to take place first, as I understand it. Do you want to explain that process a little bit?
Sure, and it's, the language itself is talking about it, the potential for being reimbursed if the expenditure is approved by the board that they sit on, and the specific language is with funds being in the available from, and that would be the approval from the executive branch. I'm still working with them too, because I know that they're taking a look at it. There might be amendments to maybe establish more of a process, but I think the thought process is if you're going to spend money as a volunteer on a board, but you haven't gotten approval on that expenditure, you're not going to get reimbursed on it. If you make an expenditure and the board that you're on approves it, but you haven't gotten approval or clarification that there's funding available to reimburse, you're not going to get reimbursed. So it provides for the opportunity and a general process that I believe exists among employees. It just seems that we didn't apply it to.
Okay, so there is a check and balance.
Yes, sir.
On the whole thing. Okay, thank you, Councilman. Mr. Secretary, I'd like to be a co-sponsor as well.
Okay, we are making progress. Councilman Jones?
I was sitting here and I was thinking of another scenario that came up where I believe a member of a board, and we'll talk about this offline, but I believe a member of a board that was serving on the board wanted to get reimbursed for their parking. And they weren't reimbursed for their parking. So maybe when we talk about the reimbursement process, maybe we talk about people who pay to park as well. I'm not sure if I don't know if they get a carte blanche, okay, or whether, I don't think they should have to ask to get permission to park every day that they come here.
I'm absolutely open to having a conversation offline. I think in terms of making it as simple as possible and not prescribing things to individual commissions, it's just allowing for if approved. So if you were representing the commission and had to pay for parking and then got approval to be reimbursed for parking and the funding was available, it would be allowed for. If you went somewhere, paid for parking, and then tried to get approval, it sounds like that might be possible, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get reimbursed for it. So.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next item. We have a really special item. We have Mr. Martin. I'm sorry to have delayed you. Do you have family here, Mr. Martin?
Not tonight.
Oh, I'm so thankful for that, because I didn't want to make every.
Oh.
Is that
members of departments are here to support as well.
is that Mr. Livermore out there? Okay.
We've got all of that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no need to go any further. If you got Rob Livermore, we're all supporting you. Okay, Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Council Chair and Council members, and thank you for this opportunity. I want to express my appreciation to you, the administration, the other departments that are here in support, and the Office of Information Technology team and the leadership team that's also here as well as online tonight for their continued support and dedication to making OIT the incredible team it is today. I've spent my entire career in the Baltimore region. I graduated from the University of Baltimore with a degree in Information Systems and Technology Management. I stayed at UB for a number of years working in various IT positions from audio video engineering to IT management. I see the impact of that experience directly to the success of the alumni, many which are actually here with us tonight. And after leaving UB, I wanted the impact to reach further. So at the beginning of COVID, I joined Baltimore County as the endpoint manager, leading multiple customer service focused teams. We took an agile approach to supporting a rapidly changing workforce. As the county normalized, I stepped into the deputy director role, where we engaged with the whole county government to implement multiple large-scale enterprise projects while navigating leadership changes directly within OIT. In the past few months, I have served as the acting director, where we put a focus on continuing our path forward with customer engagement, enterprise-level development, and reducing our technical debt. Together, we will face technical advances in cyber response, artificial intelligence, and application modernization. I look forward to your support in this role, as well as continuing my service to Baltimore County constituents and the departments that serve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Do any of the members have any comments, questions, or thoughts to share with Mr. Martin? Councilman Marks?
Mr. Martin, you displayed great customer service a few days ago. I had a constituent where trucks were going into her driveway because I guess the maps were oriented in that way. I thank you for that can-do attitude. You got it done very fast. I intend to support you. Unfortunately, I have to go to a community meeting in West Wind Rivers, which is quite far away. So, but I want to thank you and tell you I'll be strongly supporting you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions, comments, thoughts? Councilman Ertel?
I was just going to say that I feel like it's deja vu, like we're finally going to appoint you to director and not acting director, and so it feels like we keep seeing you. So.
with more fiscal matters to come too, so thank you.
Mr. Martin, I just want to say I think you're doing a great job. Really impressed with your work ethic, how you have formed your team to be very motivated. I think that's all the qualities we want in a director, so you can count on my support.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions, comments, or thoughts? Okay, thank you. We're going to move to the next item. And the next item will be Pete Gutwald, another great director. Take care, guys. Tax on vacant structures, Mr. Gutwald.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. Yes, Bill 6324 establishes a new tax on vacant structures as authorized under state law. As you're aware, in the 2024 legislative session, the Maryland General Assembly passed House Bill 2, allowing local jurisdictions to establish a special rate for vacant and abandoned properties. And that's exactly what 6324 does, imposes on vacant structures that have been designated as unfit for habitation or other authorized use on a housing or building structure. The county's process for designating a vacant structure is established under Article 35, Subtitle 5, if you remember, under county law, originally established under 523, and there is a set of criteria that we go through to establish whether a property is vacant, and there is appeal process and all that good information. The vacant tax structure is set at, or special rate is set at $10 per $100 of assessed value. As I mentioned in the first session, that's benchmarked against other jurisdictions across the country. 1/2 of the revenue shall be directed to the neglected property community fund, which allows us to go in and do repairs or raise the building, the structure, and the other half will be directed to the Housing Opportunities Fund. As of when we when we introduced the legislation, there were about 435 registered vacant properties, of which 31 were deemed unfit for habitation, which had an expected revenue of about $700,000. I can tell you, as of the other day, that number had risen to about 50 properties when I was looking at it, but that number always changes because some come off, some go back on. So, and that ends my testimony. If there's any questions, I'm open.
Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Gutwald? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Sure. Our next item is another illustrious Baltimore County employee, Mr. Lawrence Richardson, Deputy Director, Department of Health and Human Services. Penalties for the distribution of tobacco products. Mr. Lang, penalties.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Patoka, members of the council. Bill 6424 is making changes to the Baltimore County Code under Article 13, Title 12, which is the distribution of tobacco products and electronic smoking devices to persons under 21. The amendments that we are making to this in the code put us in alignment with state law. Under the county and state and federal law, it is illegal to sell tobacco products, including cigarettes, cigars, and e-cigarettes to anyone under 21. Currently, in Baltimore County Code, a active duty military member who is between 18 and 20 is currently allowed to buy tobacco products in Baltimore County. We are changing that to be in alignment with the state and federal law. The other amendments we are making are to require the verification of age with a government ID to anyone under the age of 30. Currently, county law is persons over the age of 27. And finally, the proposed legislation would align the county's civil penalty structure with the state's, changing our initial penalty from $300 to $500. The second violation penalty will go up to $1,000 or remain at $1,000, and a third violation would change from $1,500 to $3,000. We are also changing the time frame for a civil penalty. Currently, it is penalties within 1 calendar year. We're changing that to within a 2-year period. So those are the amendments we are making to the county code to align with COMAR, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Richardson. Next item is Renee Coleman, and we're going to talk about the creation of a labor commissioner.
Good evening, Council Chair and members of the County Council. This request is to amend the county's executive compensation plan to add the classification of labor commissioner to the exempt service of the county. The labor commissioner shall be located within the administrative office. The labor commissioner shall be responsible for administering the county's labor relations program in conformance with federal and state laws, county rules, and policies, and shall assist with oversight of the daily functions performed. The position will negotiate collective bargaining agreements with all 6 county unions with employee representatives of each union group and act as a hearing officer for the final internal step in the employee's grievance procedure.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Coleman. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Ms. Coleman? Okay, thank you, Ms. Coleman.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Bob Smith to talk about Recreation Council donations.
Good evening, members of council and council chair. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of private funds totaling $18,840 from the now defunct Police Athletic League Board of Directors to the Recreation Council Donation Gifts and Grants Fund program. In FY24, the department reorganized the county's Police Athletic League centers to recreation activity centers in order to promote recreation, social, and wellness opportunities to a wider range of people in the communities, including programming and space for all ages. The department advised that the POW Board of Directors has decided to dissolve at this time and donate the funds comprising the $18,840 in a supplemental appropriation. These funds were previously raised by the Board of Directors to provide educational, cultural, and athletic experiences for children who may have otherwise not had such opportunities, and we will continue to use those funds in the similar purposes, including field trips and supplies.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Smith? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Next item we have is Colonel Conger, Police Department, Metals Treatment Technologies, Maintenance, Firing Range.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the council.
Good evening.
The administration is requesting the approval of a contract with Metals Treatment Technologies, LLC, to provide for the complete removal and disposal of accumulated lead remnants, bullets, and lead waste residue at the police department's outdoor firing range. The contract commences upon council approval, continues for 1 year, and would renew automatically for 4 additional 1-year periods. And we would also retain the option to extend the initial term or any renewal term by 180 days. The contract provides that compensation may not exceed the amount appropriated for these services for the entire contract term. And property management has advised that the estimated compensation totals to be $646,301 for the entire 5-year, 6-month term, including the renewal and extension periods.
Thank you, Colonel Conger, and I apologize for keep you waiting. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Colonel Conger? Thank you again, Colonel.
Thank you.
And next we have Mr. Walt Pesterfield. He's going to tell us about electric motor repairs. And kitchen equipment.
Good evening, Council Chair and Council members. The Department of Corrections is requesting approval of a supplier contract with the Electrical Motor Company. The proposed contract includes an initial term of 1 year with 4 one-year term renewals options not to exceed $797,834. The contractor shall furnish quarterly inspections, preventative maintenance, mechanical labor, including regular and overtime, and materials, tools, equipment, and supervision necessary to perform kitchen equipment repairs at various county locations.
Thank you, Mr. Pesterfield. Do any of the members have any comments, questions, or thoughts? Okay, thanks so much, Mr. Pesterfield.
Thank you.
And next we have Kevin Reed, Director of Office of Budget and Finance. He's going to tell us about.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members.
He's going to tell us.
This is a request to approve amendment to a contract with Contractor Compliance and Monitoring, or CCMI, as they are known to, that will remove the compensation cap of the agreement and limit it to the amount appropriated for its services in our capital budget. Our current cap is $190,000, and as a result of additional monitoring of contracts, the current cap is no longer sufficient. Some background on this vendor: the County Council approved this contract with CCMI last August, and they provide comprehensive labor program compliance services, including but not limiting to monitoring and enforcement of labor compliance for projects subject to the county's prevailing wage law, conducting prevailing wage-related trainings, providing telephone and email support to contractors and subcontractors, and monitoring of apprenticeship requirements, and most importantly, audits for certified or verified payrolls that contractors and subcontractors submit to this vendor biweekly. This contract is a cooperative procurement based off of Montgomery County and will expire next June. In the fall and winter, we will be putting out another RFP to look at continuing these services, potentially with this or another vendor who is the most reasonable and responsive bidder. So we're asking for this amendment at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share from Mr. Reed? Okay, thanks. And that was our penultimate item, and we're now on the final item, I believe, and that is Councilman Ertel, Crandall, and Jones, rental housing licenses, short-term rental lease. Councilman Ertel.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This bill addresses short-term rental properties in the county. I know I talked about this at the last work session, but the planning department did a study that we had requested in a resolution to look at short-term rental properties in the county and how we deal with them, how we regulate them. And we feel like we've put together a good package based on what the planning department came up with. I read an article today, and I know this is somewhat unrelated, and this bill won't address this, but there's an article about affordable housing and how there's less of it around the country. And one of the things that we're seeing is that some of the starter homes are being bought up for short-term rentals. Again, this doesn't necessarily address that, but I feel like it's a good bill that will address some of the issues that we've seen, safety issues, having a short-term license that we don't currently have, and I appreciate everybody's thoughts and suggestions for making it a better bill. I know Councilman Young had some potential amendments.
Okay, Councilman Young.
Yep, and appreciated your work on this. As always, I did want to try and catch you before the meeting, just an additional amendment.
Sorry, I missed you.
No, you're good. We, in going through and confirming that the other jurisdictions from my question last time, they all have provision related to listing the sites that they're using to advertise. The other jurisdictions also had some sort of requirement for liability insurance, so just wanted to, we can talk offline, but maybe before Monday, if you're open to it, adding an amendment to require liability insurance.
I think that's a great suggestion. And one of the things, Councilman Young, I'm actually surprised we didn't have that in there. We find a lot of times that people will do a short-term rental and they have regular homeowners insurance on the property, which doesn't necessarily give them a high liability limit. So if someone fell down the steps or had some incident in the house, I think a lot of times the guests assume that they have protections, and that's a good idea. So we should.
But yeah, happy to talk after, and then we don't have to get into the weeds now. There was it's adding an and somewhere, so it implies when a penalty is incurred, so that an action's taken. But we can talk about that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any additional questions, comments? Okay, this will conclude our work session. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there this late into the evening.